So since we did not finish the hurricane preparedness presentation before lunch, and now we have all of our commissioners here, let's go ahead and continue on. And Mr. Stroud, you are just in the nick of time.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, my name is Tommy Stroud. I'm with the Lake Worth Drainage District. Drainage history in South Florida, particularly Palm Beach County, has got a long history. The Lake Worth Drainage District was created by the legislature in 1915, and the purpose, the intent of it, was to provide drainage for the area to essentially convert the Everglades to usable agricultural land. In the 30s and 40s, water control structures, pump stations, and things like that were added. So it's always been improved, but its basic mission has been to manage the conversion of land use from natural wetlands to agriculture and now today urban. In the 1970s, new standards came about as part of the Clean Water Act for drainage systems, and the state adopted them. South Florida Water Management District permits these stormwater systems. And the ponds that you see in the communities, the lakes, those amenities, those serve a critical stormwater function. They're actually the place that excess stormwater is supposed to go to avoid flooding in homes. And so it's a critical component that a lot of people don't really see because it's not obvious. The important aspect of flooding is one to recognize frequency and duration. And so how often it happens and how severely it happens. These stormwater ponds store most of the rainfall events that we experience. However, there are events that exceed that. And so when the stormwater ponds can accommodate that excess stormwater, it flows into the streets, it flows into low-lying areas, parks, and those types of areas that a lot of people consider flooding. I view it as the stormwater system's doing its job under those extreme events. Give me a second. And the communities, because of that, have a responsibility for stormwater. Obviously, Lake Worth Drainage District, we manage about 500 miles of canals. All of our canals discharge into South Florida Water Management District canals, but we accept the water from the communities. And so the communities have responsibilities also for managing the stormwater within their areas. So we encourage them to perform inspections on an annual basis. And then as we get into the hurricane season, pay attention to the emergency management notifications and to prepare for storm events as they occur within, like, say, 48 hours from landfall. We encourage them to kind of walk their properties to make sure they don't have drains that are clogged or swales that have material in them that could restrict flow. Within 36 hours, 24 hours, for major events, the Lake Worth Drainage District will provide authorization to these communities to operate their emergency weirs for a short period prior to the storm. That allows them to lower their lake systems before the excess rain from the storm occurs. Then they close those structures. The storm event happens. Obviously, their lakes come up as a result of that excess runoff. And then after the event, we'll give the issue the order again that they can then lower their lakes to bring them back down to normal. And of course, we encourage them to identify a liaison that they can identify to work with us during those operations. So what can you expect when it rains? If you get a 3 to 4 inch rain, that occurs very frequently during the wet season. You can expect standing water in swales and yards and ditches. You get anywhere from 5 to 6, 7 inches in 24 hours. That's where you could expect to see residential roads experiencing flooding in low-lying areas. If you get 15 to 23 inches, that's excessive rainfall. If you get that kind of rain, there could be homes or businesses in low-lying areas that could experience flooding. A couple examples of that in recent history. In 2023, if you remember in Fort Lauderdale, the airport flooded. They got 26 inches of rain in a 24-hour period. In 2014, in southeastern Palm Beach County, we received 22 inches of rain in the Kings Point area, and there was flooding in some residential units in that area. So it's very rare, but it does occur. And those are the types of things that we're working with South Florida Water Management District to try to avoid or mitigate. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sherry with the Water Management District.
I'll be brief. I just want to touch on a few things that we collaborate with the 298 water districts here in South Florida. So the district serves approximately 9.5 million residents in South Florida. We have 2,175 miles of canals. We handle 2,130 miles of drivable levees or berms. We have 90 pump stations, 915 water control structures and weirs, and we are the regional network that moves 20 million acres feet during an average year of water, just to give you an idea of the overall look or scope. As far as the emergency management of flood control with the district, before, during, and after a storm, our engineers, our meteorologists, and our water managers are monitoring weather, and they're monitoring the conditions and the water levels 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, year-round, not just during a storm. I want to make that clear. We have our own EOC and our own meteorology room, and it's staffed full-time. They use this data to determine the optimal operation of the hundreds of water control structures throughout the system in times of severe weather. And then this just gives you an idea of our org chart during an emergency management situation. This is for internal operations, external operations, key stakeholders, which includes county, federal, state, and city, and it includes vendors and contractors, new and existing. So it's just a little overview of how we interact with Lake Worth Drainage District, the counties, and the cities during an event. And now I'll turn it back over to Mary.
So in response to all of this, whether it's flooding, whatever the hazard is, we have hurricane evacuation zones set for hurricanes. As you can see on the map, that includes the depiction of our shelter locations. So we have, when we activate here for a storm, we could have up to 15 general population shelters, 2 pet-friendly shelters, and 2 special needs shelter facilities. So we encourage our residents, they need to make that plan now. They need to know if they're in an evacuation zone and understand where they would go in the event of a disaster. But how we do all this, we don't do this alone. We use our EDRP program, our Employee Disaster Response Program, and we use all of our county employees to work and help us through these times of disasters. So we have over 3,900 employees that are department essential, but the remaining approximately 1,600 of those have specific disaster assignments, as you'll see here. But those department essential employees do things like maintain our water systems. That role cannot change in a disaster. Our firefighters continue to do their fire operations. Our facilities staff prepare buildings and do damage assessments afterwards, as well as our engineering and road and bridge folks. They ensure that we do the first push of debris initially and maintain that our traffic signals are up and operational. But a majority of our staff, through the EDRP process, help us in our shelter operations. That is a big component of what our staff do, but we don't do it alone. We do it with partners from the school district, and we do it with our EMS partners from not only the county, but also the municipalities. They provide EMS support. So we really do it as a community when it comes to opening and preparing shelters. And our Department of Health is a big player in our special needs shelter facility. So our residents can take 4 simple steps: make a plan, build a kit, get involved, and be informed. So that main point of making a plan is to know their hazards that could impact them at their home and their place of business, know their evacuation zones if they're in a hurricane evacuation zone, which is different than a flood zone, so it's very important that they know those 2 things are different. They need to know their home, understand if they're safe to stay in their home, and understand what it would take to mitigate their home so they could stay in their home, and create a communication plan. Individuals that do have a plan, that they have special medical needs and go to our special needs shelter and/or the ones that are going to take advantage of our pet-friendly shelter, we would ask them to do that in advance. They should pre-register for those services. They can do it on our website, readypbc.com. They can do that for the special needs shelter, or they can reach out to the EOC or to Animal Care and Control for the pet-friendly shelter. It's very important to note that everybody needs a plan, and if your plan's to evacuate, do that and have that plan well in advance, which would include fueling up your vehicles, because not all gas stations have generators. There's only certain stations that are equipped with generators. Even those that are statutorily required to be prepared for generators doesn't mean they have them. They're required to have a transfer switch. So not all gas stations have generators. So we need people to make sure that if they are planning to evacuate, they do that well in advance. Building your supply kit, we hope everybody has their kit made already. 1 gallon of water per person per day for 5 to 7 days. Non-perishable foods, meaning food that can sit in your pantry, that they can have ready and available now. Remember the pets, remember the kids, remember the elderly. Have all those personal hygiene things. We all know from COVID, you need plenty of toilet paper. Have all that stuff in place now. Be ready for those things in your supply kit. There's no reason to delay. And then another piece that's important in your supply kit is your documentation. Have that in a watertight container. Your insurance papers, take a lot of pictures and videos of your home before a disaster. Have all that important paperwork available in a watertight container, birth certificates, marriage certificates, because you don't want those things to be damaged in the event of a storm. And I can't stress enough how readypbc.com, we have great information on our website, which includes a really good supply kit that educates people, walks them through week by week of what they can do to build a disaster kit if they don't already have one. So we encourage people to do that. And then get involved. We can't talk enough about our communities, about neighbors helping neighbors, about getting involved, knowing your neighbors, helping your elderly neighbors that may be around you, and then also take the time to get to know your neighbors, help each other put your shutters up, take them down, share supply kits. Those are very important things in time of disaster because it's going to take all of us to be able to respond. And then at emergency management, we provide training free of charge to members that want to become CERT team members, Community Emergency Response Team members. It's 24 hours of training. We want our residents to take this training so they can go back to their own individual communities and form a mini team that can go check on their neighbors and help out in their community. So we really encourage people to get involved. And then to be informed. Again, our website, readypbc.com, is so important. We have hurricane planning guides on there. We have information where people can put in their address and know their evacuation zone as well as their flood zone. Again, those two things are different. And they can see information on our shelter locations, and they can always, again, call the EOC. And then we're going to encourage all of our residents to sign up for Alert PBC. This is our mass notification system for individuals to get called for public safety messages that would impact them at their home or their business. This is so important for individuals to be signed up for an emergency alert and warning system. And we feel like our system in Palm Beach County really is one of the premier systems to engage people. And part of that system, through our system of Alert PBC, we are connected with the National Weather Service. So if we have wireless emergency alerts that go out from the Weather Service, they automatically get sent out through our alert and notification system. That would be for any type of warning that we would receive. Hurricane warning, tornado warning, storm surge warning, flash flood warnings. They go out through the weather alert system. And let me tell you, they're geo-targeted messages, and I really want to bring this up and stress this because after Hurricane Milton and the tornadoes that impacted our community, individuals were saying they did not get the tornado warning. You're not going to get a warning like that if you're not in that geographical area. So when we had those tornadoes go through Wellington, the Loxahatchee, the Acreage, and Gardens, if you were in West Palm Beach, you were not going to get that warning unless you were in that area. But if you drove in that area, you should have received that warning. But I am also going to say, this is dependent on use of the system. There were over 145 tornado warnings that went out that day because of Hurricane Milton, and we don't know if systems get overloaded. So we tell people in times of disaster, have redundant communications. So in addition to those phone apps, we encourage residents to get NOAA weather radios and have those available in their home. And then Follow us on all of our social media. We have great social media presence before, during, and after. We partner with our public affairs department to take over our sites for us and push out that important information that we're sharing out of the EOC. So we really want to encourage our residents to follow us and be informed and share our information as well. And we would encourage you to do the same. But we do need your help. So I'm going to look at the help from our current incident commander to help me share that message, if you would.
So oftentimes we're asked, how can I help? And I know that some of you are thinking that right now, so we're going to help answer that question very briefly. First off, as elected leaders of the county, what we think is important is that we look to reinforce the actions and priorities of our countywide emergency response to help manage it. That priority first is life safety. Secondly is established communications. We'll talk a little bit more about that with you. Our mission critical operations, mission critical infrastructure, as well as environmental hazard mitigation. We want to reinforce the EOC actions and priorities with you. First and foremost, I think our elected officials, our commissioners and others have been super important in assisting with federal declarations when it comes to FEMA, turning those programs on, special requests, and reimbursement support, as well as the consistent messaging and using your vast networks in order to get some of that messaging out. But the one thing and the one challenge that we're facing right now is what's next, and that is the conversations we're having with the federal government. And as we talk about budget today, there's nothing more important than these messages we're getting back. That is, we're expected to spend more local funds on disasters, expecting significant reduction to federal reimbursements, and expect to cover 100% of the cost of damages to beaches and parks in Category G, of which we've been reimbursed close to $20 million since 2017. So I just leave you with that message because that's the message we're getting from the federal government, from our members of Congress, and we thank you all for your indulgence in this important public safety announcement. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
So with the dooms slide there, I want to add a little bit more questions regarding the NOAA. There's on the current bill, budget bill at the federal level, there is some expected cuts to that particular program. Am I correct about that?
Well, there's a lot of conversations that are happening, but nothing is really definitive yet. So a lot of people are asking us how we're dealing with some of the cuts here locally. We haven't seen any local impacts as of yet.
Okay.
But I think we're having conversations and trying to build contingency plans for the what ifs in the future. But currently, right now, we've seen no impacts to any of those changes.
Do we rely on NOAA to get the trajectory and the information of where these hurricanes are coming from?
I can tell you our NOAA, between the Hurricane Center and our local National Weather Service in Miami, those are probably the stakeholders we talk to the most at the policy level and the command staff level to get our information. We rely on those partners extensively. In the past, we've had Weather Service representation in our EOC during an approaching storm, and they have given us valuable information not only about our decision making, but also about when it's safe to resume operations. So I think that partner is partnership at the federal level is one of our most key partnerships before a storm.
Yeah, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because since we rely on them so heavily to understand what's happening out and with these storms, I did read and hear news that there is possible cuts to the funding of this particular program. I understand it is almost $1.5 billion that will be cut from this program, and we rely on them to keep our residents safe. So if for some reason there are cuts to these programs, I've heard experts say that maybe some of these might not be as reliable. Is there any other place that we can get accurate information if what the information moving forward is not as reliable? And what is the time to adjust and basically communicate that to, because we use that information to communicate to our residents. So I'm looking for ways that we can reduce the time if there was ever anything that wasn't accounted for because of funding cuts. So is there redundancies here, or
I mean, as far as weather forecasting and weather models, there are a lot of private sector type of tools, and there are a lot of different resources out there. But what I can say is what comes out of our NOAA partnership, and primarily, more specifically, the Hurricane Center, is that historical knowledge and understanding every component of that cyclone that's forming. They really have expertise in all areas. They know the topography of the land to be able to determine those storm surge. A lot of these private sector tools, they're looking at the same data that the Hurricane Center is looking at, but they may be interpreting it a little bit differently. So it's scientifically proven through the years of studies, and that's why we've seen the cone shrink through the years, because they take the previous year's predictions and determine how best accurately they predicted where these storms go. And this is all they do at the National Hurricane Center. Would there be something else? I'm sure there could be, but would it be as reliable? I could not sit here today and tell you that. And what I want to say about our National Weather Service office, because they fall under the NOAA umbrella as well, is they're regionally based. They know our communities. They know, they'll call us and say, you're going to have flooding in a community like Kings Point. They know our community down to the neighborhoods, and they're watching that information. I can tell you, before we received any tornado warnings before Hurricane Milton, my phone rang with a call telling us you're going to be getting a tornado. So it's that level, precise precision, and their intimate knowledge of our community that we don't find anywhere else.
Which is what concerns me, that we are cutting dollars from these programs that help keep people safe. And I don't know how we explore redundancies so that we don't miss anything and we don't lack to communicate with our residents. So as you can see, FEMA is cutting costs of, if there is a catastrophe, we might not get those dollars back, and we're cutting on the front end too on protecting our residents. So I'm very concerned about these cuts. I know we have no control or say over that, but we have to be able to adjust fire locally if we have a disaster or something that's heading our way, to communicate with our residents. So thank you for the work that you do, your staff. I don't want to see you too often unless it's for these meetings. And I think you did, by the way, thank you for the tour that you did for me, showing me what the emergency, what your team does. But these things are concerning, and I just want to make sure that we keep our people safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for this presentation. Just a couple things and more on the practical side for our residents. And, we have a lot of new folks that have not had the opportunity to experience some of this weather. So in regards to like landscaping and trimming and things like that, how far in advance of a storm should you be doing it? And how far in advance of a storm should you not be doing it?
Yeah, I think it depends on the scale. Obviously, if you have large vegetation like trees and things like that earlier in this dry season, when you can prune those or remove them, that's the best time to do it. The normal vegetative maintenance, within a few days of a landfalling hurricane, you'd want to make sure you've picked up that debris and moved it to a disposal location so you can avoid it getting tangled up in your stormwater system and reducing the ability for water to flow out of your neighborhood into the stormwater pond or into our canal.
I mean, one of the things I see a lot of, I see people out with their blowers, and they're blowing the debris into the drains. Is that okay?
No. In short, I mean, because those should be maintained open as much as reasonably possible to accommodate the flow of water. And all it takes is one palm frond to fall on top of a surface grate, and that grate is now inoperable. And so you can imagine if you accumulate debris over time by putting it into the storm drain, you're going to wind up with a storm drain that may have half or less of its normal capacity.
Thank you. And if folks are planning to, or know that they're likely to have to use one of our shelters, what should they expect and how should they prepare for that?
Well, if they're going to plan on using our special needs or pet friendly, we encourage them to call our office or register through the website. And we have great information on there telling them what they should plan to bring. But in our general population shelters, it's not a hotel. It's not their home, so we encourage people, it's not their family member's home, so we really encourage people to use shelters as a last resort, because what we plan for example, in our general population risk shelters, is we plan for 20 square feet per person of floor space. They're not going to get cots. They're not going to get a private room. They're not going to get a private bathroom. It's literally floor space in a school. So they need to realize that that's what they're going to get. So we ask them to bring their bedding, bring their change of clothes, bring some of their personal items and food supplies with them. We do provide food and basic hydration, but it is not a comfortable environment, and it's not intended to be. It's intended to get them out of that risk of that hurricane for a very short period of time. So I want to manage those expectations. If people can have another option other than sheltering, I would encourage them to stay with family or friends if they can do that out of harm's way.
Okay, good information. And then lastly, and this is sort of a follow-on to Commissioner Flores's comments, I mean, people get their news and information in a lot of non-traditional ways these days. How can people be certain that they're getting accurate information?
Well, I know that they can get accurate information by following the county. All the county's sites, whether it's our website, Channel 20, when we're activated, is broadcasting live right from the EOC, and they cover all of our press conferences and briefings. But follow our website, follow the social media channels of the county government or the Division of Emergency Management, because we're going to be putting out that correct information. And I can tell you, working with the public affairs team, if we discover that there's misinformation out there, that team jumps on it right away to try to correct that misinformation and get the correct information out. So we would encourage people to follow official sources for their information.
And lastly, yeah, I think it's something I was not aware of until I moved here, was to have a plan after the storm of where, if in fact, you can't access your home or it's damaged, and to have a plan of where everybody comes together at, right?
Absolutely. Our number one priority is get back to normalcy in this county, and it's going to take all of us to recover. So if we can do all that work on the front end to mitigate our homes, to make sure that they're safe so that they do withstand an event and everybody can get back in, that's our ultimate goal. And we do that. We work with our partners, and as you can see, we're discussing water control and water drainage today as our partners. But we have our utility, our energy partners with Florida Power and Light. They're a big partner with us. We are working to ensure that this county is up and operational as quickly as possible, and we're getting those shelters closed so that the children can get back in school. That's our ultimate goal.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for this presentation and for coming back so that we could really do this right and not rush through it. First, I wanted to discuss on Alert PBC. I know that it provides county and city alerts, so I wanted to know if you could maybe touch base for all of our people who live in a municipality, that this is not just like an unincorporated alert system. This is truly countywide. Could you touch
Correct.
on that?
The Alert PBC is a countywide system, and we have provided it to our municipalities to use as well for any of their public safety messaging. But any of those messages that go out countywide, when individuals sign up, they get to pick if they are in a municipality, they get to pick their municipal jurisdiction as an option. And if the municipality chooses to use that system for public safety messaging, they'll get that. But it is a countywide system within Palm Beach County.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. And then also the CERT program, which that I'm not sure. Is that something that's available to residents countywide as well?
Yes,
Okay.
the CERT program is available countywide. There's no charge to our residents to take that 24 hours of training. That's been provided to us through grants, so we pay for that. And there's a lot of great CERT teams out there and a lot of communities that really do good stuff in their communities to help their neighbors. So.
Could you help, at least for myself, and maybe my fellow commissioners would like to know, within our districts, where some of these are and maybe where there's some gaps that we might could do some community engagement to let them know if they would like to participate in something like this?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then as far as the drains, thank you so much for talking on this. It wasn't a hurricane. It was some freak rain event that happened several years back in my community in Boca, where our streets flooded halfway up our driveway. Couldn't figure, I mean, it was heavy rain, but it didn't seem like it should have done what it did. And of course, my husband and several of our neighbors with flashlights out there, the whole drain was covered with leaves. And it was a heavy rain event, but it took us like hands pulling these leaves out and the suction. Yeah. These drains work. Yes. When they're clear. So it is important for us to get the word out to all of our, and my husband and several neighbors, they're always checking the drains and they'll go down and clean them out because we don't want to experience that again. But these drains work as intended as long as we keep our debris off of them. So thank you for making that part of the presentation. And also on the Milton tornadoes, I'm not sure how anyone in this county didn't get alerts on that because I had so many, honestly, I kind of started ignoring because I thought it was just duplicating. I didn't know we had so many different ones. So good job on that, and shame on me for not opening each one to realize what was happening to our neighbors to the north and to the west. And as far as the local, or the tree trimming that was brought up, I would also like to remind people to pay attention to your coconut trees, because those are projectiles and will do a lot of damage to a lot of things if they're not taken care of. And I see them now as cannonballs when it's getting close to storm season. So I would like to put that out there for people to pay attention. They're beautiful, but you can't leave them up during the storms. And I'm hoping for a year of fish storms, so we don't have to, would be nice to do all this preparation and let the storms go out to sea. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Mayor and Commissioner Woodward, I'm so glad we're having this conversation and I'm so glad everybody is here, because there's nothing more exciting than the beginning of hurricane season in Florida. And I have to say, out of all the counties that I know in this state, we are always the best prepared. And I want to recognize Mr. Stroud, because I know that, how many years have you been working in charge of the Lake Worth Drainage District?
Going on my 11th year at Lake Worth Drainage District, and about 25 before that at South Florida Water Management.
I figured that. I figured you have a lot of knowledge on it. And is it true that you electronically, that your organization is able to lower the water in many of our canals before a storm comes?
Yes, our water control system, much like South Florida Water Management District, is an automated system, computer automated. Mm-hmm. We do it remotely. On telemetry, and we have redundant backup, so if we have fail-safe systems, if we have any problems, generators, et cetera. So we're fully automated and can operate the system literally from anywhere in the world.
It's beautiful, because before that was operational, we had some floods at Kings Point, which was disastrous. So now everything is just working so beautiful. And the Water Management District, thank you also so much, because all of this, it's like a balancing act. The more rain that comes, the more management that we have with your organization as well, because flooding is a big deal. And Mayor, I can't speak highly enough of you being able. We had the tornadoes at Kings Point a couple of years ago. That was shocking, but I have to say that FEMA was there. I also have to say that our entire county staff, in terms of EMS, was there immediately to take care of the folks who were there. What I would like to just suggest is that we have more shelters. I only have one shelter in my district. It doesn't, it's not a special needs, and it's not for pets. And that's 225,000 people. I only have one shelter in District 5. And I'd like to see sort of a review of how many shelters that we have throughout this county. And I'd also like to see more pet shelters, or at least to know that folks can, if they could drop their dog or cat or animal off at Animal Care and Control possibly, or some other place that they can. Some people won't leave because they don't want to leave the dog behind. The dog's ready to go. Just that we need more pet shelters for them. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sachs. And thank you all. I know it's a heavy lift, and I think the happiest day is the end of hurricane season for all of us. And quite frankly, we get a little lax towards the end of hurricane season, and historically, that's when we've been getting our worst storms. So we really can't be asleep at the switch towards the end of hurricane season. And I know we just hosted the Governor's Hurricane Conference a little while back, and one of the things that I reminded folks is I'm not buying bottled water because I've got hundreds of containers in my house that I can put water in, and this way I don't have to recycle bottles because I've got all those containers at home. And make sure that you put your ice in a container in your freezer, so if you do lose power, your ice doesn't melt all over your food. And one of the last things I said to folks that day was, I know we stock up on food, but as in my house, the refrigerator is always full and the freezer is over full. And I've been encouraging my folks to eat the food in the freezer, because if we do lose power, that food is going bad. So as you said, foods that don't need to be refrigerated, and make sure you have gas for your grills outside, because you can boil water outside. You can do all those things if you have gas in your grill. So with that, I think we need a motion to receive and file this.
So moved.
I have. We'll give the motion to Commissioner Woodward and the second to Vice Mayor Baxter. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. And I believe Clerk Abruzzo wanted to do an introduction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have our summer interns from the clerk's office, both the finance side and the court side. If you could all just briefly stand. I gave them an overview about the budget and how it worked today, and I could tell you they asked some incredible questions, Madam Mayor. So just
Thank you all. And we'll take any questions when you have them. Thanks. There you go. Well, that actually concludes the business portion of our meeting. Now we are going to go to the budget portion. And I'm looking and I'm seeing some city managers in here. You know that we moved the transportation plan, right? Okay, good. All right. Yeah. Do you want it? We can do that. We'll do, you know what we're going to do, if you don't mind, we're going to conclude the appointments and all that other kind of stuff. We're going to clean up the meeting and then we'll go to budget. Okay, so who has, the clerk, you ready? We're going to do a little bit more. Anybody have board appointments? Commissioner Flores. Do you have any board appointments? Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I have two board appointments for District 5. One is the Planning Commission, is Gary Brown. And the second is the Advisory Commission on Women, is Jean Navarro.
Okay. Commissioner Powell, do you have anybody you need to appoint? Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to reappoint Gary Eliopoulos to the Housing Finance Authority.
I'm not even going to try to spell that. Vice Mayor, anybody?
I do not have any appointments, Mayor.
Okay. Any staff comments at the moment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A few comments. One, I wanted to start off by saying thank you to some of our personnel in the county and some other agencies that we worked with. Emergency Management, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, ACA, Department of Health, in a collective response over this weekend, responded in Lake Worth to an incident that we had at an assisted living facility where we identified several floors that were at temperatures that were much higher than they should have been. And our teams jumped on it, were there round the clock, and had an operation throughout the weekend, successfully evacuating a number of individuals out of that location and to others according to their emergency management plan. And I think it's just one example of the teamwork and the partnerships that we rely on to do these things in the community. It could have been a very, very, very disastrous situation, but not for the response of those teams. So thank you to everybody that was involved in that operation. Secondly, just on the communication side, I sent last week what we've called the Administrator Minute, where we're doing some weekly 1-minute videos every week to focus on some of our county employees and also offer some feedback in response to some of our county employees. We're actually going to be doing one this week at Station 91 down in Lake Worth Beach, and we're going to just talk about some of that teamwork and how every member of this Palm Beach County staff is a member of an extremely important team, and we want them to feel that they're valued, and we look forward to continue work here in Palm Beach County. And then finally, thank you to the leadership of the Board of County Commissioners. We are hosting our County Administrator Candidate Forum on Monday, June 16th from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Palm Beach County Convention Center. And we encourage everyone in the public to attend. If individuals want to submit questions, those are available online, and that meeting will be widely publicized throughout the community. Those are my comments. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay. Board direction, I think we might have taken care of that. Does anyone have anything else for that? Board comments, do we want to do board comments now or save them till after the budget? Now? Okay, good. Any board comments, Commissioner Powell? Commissioner Weiss? Vice Mayor?
No, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Woodward? Commissioner Sachs?
Happy Father's Day. It's
Okay.
coming up for everybody. And I want to thank Mr. Von Laren for accepting the responsibility of being interim county administrator during this period of time. Done a great job.
Commissioner Flores?
I do. I have two comments. The first one is wishing our interim administrator a very happy birthday. I understand that you celebrated your birthday yesterday, so I thought we would all sing. I'm just kidding.
That would have been fun.
That's what we used to do in Green Acres. So, and then during lunch break, I was held accountable by my interns because I did not recognize them. So I want to recognize them really quickly. I have two. I mentioned this earlier. I have two great interns. Deborah, who is a student at FIU. She wants to become an attorney. And she's great. She's been in the office now since February. And then we also have Angel, who attends UF and wants to be an officer in the military. So I do want to say, I want to acknowledge them and say thank you for all their hard work. They helped me put together the town hall that we held in District 3 not that long ago, and they are fabulous. So if that's the future of Palm Beach County, we are in great hands.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, would you mind? They reminded me of some comments I needed to make.
Sure. Go right ahead, Vice Mayor.
I apologize. So yes, I would like to recognize my interns as well. I do have three of them. I have Isabel, I have Annabella, and I have Dylan. And they've all three been amazing. They all go to different universities throughout the county, and they've been just an absolute pleasure getting to know and getting to see in their thought processes. And, showing them how I think government should work has always been fun. More efficient, more effective is always the process. It's always the way. And also, I'd like to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And yes, happy birthday to Administrator Von Laren. That's always an important one. I kind of a little sad you didn't make us all sing, but we'll go with that. So thank you. You're okay? All right, I'll start it. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Todd. Happy birthday to you.
I couldn't think of a better place to be for my birthday.
We are definitely not taking that on the road.
I said, clerk, did you get that for the record?
Yeah. Spread that across the record, please.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now that I've
Warmed
did
up.
not mention my interns, I do want to make sure that I introduce my interns, who both are from Palm Beach County but attending the University of Pennsylvania, Jonathan Jones, and attending the Florida A&M University, Christeria Thompson are my interns. Also, happy birthday, Todd. And since we didn't think about the biggest holiday of the year, the most precious and prestigious holiday that will be coming up on Sunday, everyone should have on their calendars. Definitely want to make sure everyone has a wonderful Father's Day. I'll be the keynote speaker at Grace Temple CME Church, delivering a Father's Day message to fathers, from fathers, about fathers, and thanking our Heavenly Father, okay? So, thank you.
Commissioner Sachs.
I've never seen so many interns in my life. And the clerk, we have half of the chamber here. So, Mayor, I'm going to ask you if you could think about bringing our interns together once and having an orientation of county business, EMS, and everything that is included. But I'll leave this up to you.
I would direct that to our administrator.
I think it would be a wonderful idea because interns, as has been set up here, is the future of our county. And I'd like to see, especially we've got so many from the clerk's office, maybe we can put something together and give them a little orientation of the county. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And on a final note, I'd like to say thank you to our fire department today for your help in a serious conversation. Much appreciated. To all the dads and mine who've been around here a long time, happy Father's Day. And with that, I'm going to adjourn this portion of the meeting and start the budget portion of our meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. We have a brief presentation, and I'm going to move through this rather quickly because some of it is redundant, but on slides where we are updating some numbers from you from the May 20th presentation, I just want to be very clear about that as we go through. So just as an overview, we're going to focus on the 26 budget, proposed budget summary information, talk a little bit about property values, millage rates, get into general fund budget, proposed revenues versus expenses, and then the total budget, and then touch on positions, capital debt, and then some of the recap after that. I think you're all very familiar with our strategic priorities. We've spent considerable time on that. And so I want to move into then some of the important dates for you on page 5. We are at the initial budget workshop, June 10th today. July 1st is when we expect to have the final estimates from the property appraiser on our property valuations. And then July 8th will be the meeting for the board to set the not to exceed millage rate. And then we get into the September months for our first and our second public hearings on September 9th and September 16th. Page 6, just wanted to talk to you about millage rate, just on the major assumptions that go into this particular budget. This is a budget that's balanced at 4.5 mils. That proposed rate will generate about $1.536 billion, which is roughly a 7.4% increase from last year, $105.4 million. Across the board, some of the other items that we've talked about are a 6% pay increase, which is about $19.2 million. I want to say thank you to this Board of County Commissioners who have historically over the last years recognized the need to reinvest in our employees through some of those COLA increases. I couldn't be more thankful for your support of our employees. And then our supplemental funding of $17.5 million total. That includes 175 total positions, 16 general fund ad valorem funded positions. And then our capital update, we are funding that at $124 million, which is flat from the previous year. In addition, we have a small increase too for Palm-Tran vehicles of $3.6 million. The next slide, I wanted to just share a little bit with you about this because I know there's been some discussion on the sheriff's budget and some of the expenses, and I just want to be very clear about it. First off, I want to say thank you to Sheriff Rick Bradshaw and his team for working with us since the 20th meeting. Both on the proposal that he requested and some of the valuations that we're able to receive to accommodate that request. The sheriff initially presented a $1.122 billion budget, and working with administration, reduced that by $37 million to $1.085 billion. When the board was presented a budget on May 20th from the administration side, in order to balance that budget, we needed to turn to that request and reduce that by about $20 million. So that budget that administration presented to you was a reduction from that $1.085 billion request, and therefore we presented a $1.065 billion request. I know that there have been some discussions with the sheriff since then, individually, also with us. And in an effort to get back to that initial request of the updated request of $1.085 billion, we were able to take $10 million in new valuation that we received on June 1st and add that to this budget that is before you to get that up to $1.075 billion. And then also worked with the sheriff so that in March 2026, in the mid-year budget amendment, that would be able to take an additional $10 million from what we anticipate getting there to bring the sheriff's budget back to that $1.085 billion number that he had put in and requested. So he was agreeable to working with us and doing that, and I thank him for working with us and his team as well through that. On page 8, this is just sharing with you change since the budget workshop. So we presented to you May 20th a balanced budget. From the property appraiser, in the first column, we were given about another $11.7 million in additional property values. There were some increases to CRAs that we had to accommodate. However, there were also some other major revenue increases that I'll share with you a little bit later, but specifically on our state revenue share and our franchise fees for electricity, that we saw roughly about $1 million increase estimated in each of those locations, and that was based on what we were seeing on month-to-month collections. The property appraiser's budget came in lower than expected, as did some Palmtran pension valuations. And then the board had requested $722,090 in new funding that we have included in this budget. And specifically, that included $70,000 for commission district expenses, $60,000 for back-to-school PBC event, $178,000 for a 3% increase to community-based agency contracts, and a $414,000 or 3% increase to financially assisted agency contracts, leaving us with just over $4 million, which we are allocating to our fund reserve. And I think based on some of the conversations that we just had about emergency management, FEMA, about wanting to save more and anticipating potentially spending more, that was a big rationale behind moving that into general fund reserves. The next slide just talks about ad valorem funding highlights, and I know that you've had a chance to go over that. As we move to slide 11, the proposed property taxes for FY 2026 is $2.15 billion. That includes $1.536 billion of general fund for countywide operating taxes, and that's with our millage rates, as you see listed for countywide, fire rescue, Jupiter Fire, and library on this particular slide. On slide 12, I just wanted to point out on this one, I mean, this is specifically on our ad valorem taxes, our countywide voted debt that we're showing on that first line, wanted to highlight. Portion of that is from our housing bond, and then also some of the final allocations that we have on some of our parks and waterfront bonds are reflected in those figures, but that just gives you an overall look, department district by district, to show you total countywide funds and dependent districts. On page 13, you've seen this slide before. It just shows the change in property values and millage rates, and just point out that over the last 3 years, 2 of those last 3 years, this Board of County Commissioners has reduced ad valorem. Page 14, I wanted to just share with you one thing, and that's the first line on the median assessed value. If you go to the percentage at the end of 2.9%, that's about what CPI is for this year, underneath that 3% that we saw prior to 2020 and 2021, and that's on a downward trend that I'll show you as we move along later in the presentation. This next slide on 15 shows you our property values and what the estimated proposed tax is at a 4.5 mill rate for each of those at $385,000, $500,000, and $1 million. and based on just some of the increases in values and CPI of 3%, 3.1%, what that amount increases based on the property valuation. The next slide just shows you, if you look at the top line, $525 billion is what our total just value is in the county. And if you take your eyes down to the very bottom, our total taxable value today is about 2/3 of that overall. So about 1/3 of that just valuation is exempt today through various means that a number of our property owners are enjoying in our county. The one line I wanted to share with you on page 17 is the third from the bottom, and that's CPI. So as you see from 2017, 0.7, 2.1, 2.1%, 1.9%. Then we get to 2023 and we see that jump to 7% and then that downward trend. So that trend was going up, we got to 2023, and then we're seeing a falling back of CPI on some of these valuations increases. Just an assumption that we're looking at and something that we want you to be aware of, because as we look to 27 and 28, it's possible that that number will continue to level out to where it is or perhaps lower. And if you're wondering what we're able to do to our homeowners and their savings on slide 17, this just gives you an idea of some of the savings that we're able to provide with GO bonds, CPI index, and then infrastructure, sales tax, and the net savings on that 0.5% that will be ending at the end of the year. On slide 20, this is a proposed budget for the county, and this is just general fund by revenues, and we put it into different categories. So that's $2.45 billion on this slide. Again, our property taxes on that one are $1.536 billion, and then you can kind of see the other particular categories of fund balance, interfund charges for service, intergovernmental revenues, and license permits and other taxes that we've included in that. And just so you know, from a fund balance perspective, year over year, 25 to 26, the decrease or the increase that we're seeing in that is just some of the balance adjustments we're making for some of the presidential security that we factored in for some of those decreases as we move forward. On page 21, the two lines I just wanted to share that are slightly different. The first line is our state revenue share, and then the third line, our franchise fee for electricity, roughly about $1 million adjustment on each of those, and that made up that revenue increase that I shared with you on the first slide, or the seventh slide, as we were going through some of the iterations and where those increases and adjustments came. Page 23 shares our proposed budget, general fund by function, at $2.4 billion. Again, our BCC departments at $587 million, about 23.9% of that. Sheriff's Office Services at $788 million, and then county responsible services of $287 million that the sheriff is currently providing, and that's jails, bailiffs, crime labs. But on this slide, also wanted to say that the sheriff net budget we're showing is $969.4 million. Again, on page 24, just some general fund expense history across the board from 2019 to 2026. You're seeing about a 2.2% budget difference that we have on our BCC departments. The sheriff budget, 12.1%. Other constitutional officers, 8.9%. Some of our debt service is going down. Our CRAs going up 11.9%. And then a slight decrease in some of our reserves, capital remaining flat. And then some of the non-departmental revenues have decreased as well there. CRAs, I know that's an issue we've talked about a number of times. On page 25, as you can see, the payments that we are going to be making to our CRAs for 2025 payment is just under $75 million, and on an upward trajectory of those dollars going out. And you can see by CRA where those payments are going individually to them. Page 26 and 27, these are not new, but these were the approved supplemental requests that were recommended by Administrator Baker in this budget, and we too are recommending these as well. They include not just positions, but they also include some operational needs as well as also contemplating some fees in there as well. We have not changed anything on these two slides from the last discussion that we had before the board, so I just wanted you to be aware of that nothing has changed on these two slides since then. Except for the things that you asked us to add back on those particular ones. Okay? Page 28, again, these were supplemental requests that were not approved. They came before, and if you want to get into more detail about what these are, those are in your larger packet, and we have those in detail through each of these departments and the positions and what those requests were for. On the non-ad valorem percent change by department, a lot of these, and when you look at some of the red and the negative changes that you've had, most of those were one-time types of changes that we had from the previous fiscal year. And just give you a moment to just kind of take a look at those, but that just lets you understand exactly how those changes have flowed department by department. Okay. Page 30, this is a very familiar, I think, slide to a number of you through some of the previous budget presentations. But what we've done with this is just delineate ad valorem funded counties, which is the aqua line on the bottom, and what those percentage increases have been. The sheriff budget, what those increases have been over the same period of time from 2007. We then combine the sheriff and BCC numbers on the gray line. The taxable value within the county is below that. And then finally, population and CPI, just to show how population CPI has grown in relation to some of the other functions of county government. Page 31 shares with you the changes in net operating budget, and we delineate between sheriff and ad valorem funded county departments, both from 2007 until today in 2026. And you can see those increases in that operating budget, as well as inflation and population increases during that same period of time. So on 33, this number I wanted to share with you because this is not one that we presented in May, and this is the total 2026 proposed budget, total revenue source by category. That number is $9,537,740,336. We expected that this number might have been close to about $2 billion this year, but we do have some revenues that are moving out of our coffers, particularly in the intergovernmental revenues from some of the larger projects, for example, that we were funded through Tallahassee. And then our fund balance also includes a number of different categories within that $4.45 billion. What we're showing, capital is about $2.9 billion of that. Our balance brought forward is a part of that, as are some of the balances from some of our other departments, including water utilities, airports, and the like. That also includes like opioid settlement money in there as well. So just wanted to share that number with you. And again, on the next page, it shows how we are proposing the allocation of those expenses by activity type. If you want to see a little bit more detail on this, on page 7 in your broader packet, it shares some more of that information for you in there. But as you can see, public safety makes up about 22% of our budget at $2.1 billion, transportation about $1.2 billion, and then our reserves is just over $2 billion on our expense side. I think we've spent time going over what is a fund, so I think that's one that you've had an opportunity to review. On page 36, it shows our proposed budget by fund, the $9.5 billion budget, and then we break that out into our general fund at 25.7%, our special revenues that we've got included in there, our capital projects at roughly $2.79 billion, and then some of the debt service as well that's included in that of roughly $110 million that we have in those airport lines. Page 37, if you want to see a little more detail on this, page 9 in the packet is available so you can see that. But these are our total reserves of just over $2 billion. And then we've delineated that out by special reserve funds, our capital projects funds, water utilities, airports, internal services, as we discussed a little bit earlier. And then finally, on this one, on page 38, this just shows you some of our interest estimates that we have. Now, this is not a 2026 budget. This is this year's estimate that we're using. That's roughly about $187.6 million. And you can see general funds, special revenue funds, and capital project funds are the bulk of some of the dollars here. We've also shared and broken out by special revenue funds to show you that interest that is earned in each of those particular special revenue funds needs to stay within those special revenue funds moving forward in order to allocate those dollars. Positions, we've talked about our employees per 1,000 population, where we're at today, which is 4.72 employees per 1,000 population. And then our current vacancies on page 41, where you can see, again, the current ad valorem funded positions that we have of 325. And just give you a moment to just see some of the departments where we have those vacant positions by 1 year, and then also total vacancies that we have. This continues to be a challenge for us. I mean, we spend, sorry, if you could go to slide 41, please. It obviously continues to be a challenge as we recruit and retain a number of positions for some very important departments. Water utilities has continued to be a challenge. Engineers, project managers, water utility operations, operators, just some specialized areas that have got a tremendous skill set that you need in order to fill some of those needs. But we continue to work with HR, and I do want to thank the HR team because they've really engaged in trying to work with us to look at some more of these vacancies and try to get them filled as quickly as we possibly can. On the capital side, on page 43, wanted to share what we've presented as a 5-year capital improvement program, while only the first year of that is adopted. We go on a pay-as-you-go system in the county, and our larger projects usually have some multi-year funding, particularly when we need to use bonds or other types of funding source to do that. And when you go to the next slide, I think this is a really important point that I wanted to make on the top bullet. Once a project is approved by the board, funding carries forward until a project is completed. So when this board makes a determination on projects and you fund it, those funds will move forward, and that will carry until the dollars are spent on that project, or a future board makes a determination that they no longer want to fund that, and then whatever balance might be available from those projects that hasn't been spent will revert back to reserves and carry forward moving forward, or the appropriate funding source that it came from. So I just wanted to make clear about those project cycles. Our types of capital reserves, you can see all of the different the capital revenue that we have on page 45. And then when we look at new capital projects, the total sources by funds that we're showing are $3.67 billion. That represents about $766 million of capital projects that are funded. There are a number of projects that are on this request list that are not funded, but they are showing on our 5-year plan, and those were going to be projects for future years that we'll need to look at. This does not include the $2.9 billion of carry forward funding that we shared with you earlier. So this is just on new capital project requests. The page 47 shares with you the total expenses by department of $3.67 billion in those capital. I'll just point, for example, to Parks and Recreation. We've asked Parks to provide all of their needs going forward, and it's a significant list of about $806 million going forward. So those are the kinds of things that we as staff review, analyze, and continue to work through to ensure that we're able to look out years to fund these going forward. On page 48, we're showing again the capital that we have allocated for this year, $124 million. That's remained flat from last year. But if you look on page 49, you'll see where we have come in terms of our funding for capital versus CPI. CPI is sort of represented by that black line. So those gaps between the aqua and the black line are where things like IST has filled in some of the gaps to meet some of those capital needs. And we're getting close to about where we should be today on funding for capital if we were to follow the CPI model from 2007 till today. And the hope is that we can hopefully maintain that going forward. One of the reasons why we ended up with an IST is because those were areas that we started cutting from when we got into some economic downturns, and that happens, but wanted you to have that bigger, broader understanding of how that particular chart flows. On page 50, these are total source by fund categories, and you can see our balance brought forward of $2.9 billion, and then the other different revenue funds that we have by category that are listed throughout that. Page 51 shares our total expenses by department of $3.685 billion, and that just breaks it down by each individual department. And then briefly wanted to share with you a little bit about debt. Page 53 shows our amounts that are outstanding in our general obligation bonds of $104.9 million, our non-ad valorem bonds of $623.9 million, and then our self-supporting revenue bonds such as our water utilities and airports of $159.4. Palm Beach County still remains a AAA bond-rated county. On page 54, you can see that, something that we are extremely proud of, that we've been able to continue to maintain that. Page 55 just shows you some potential bond issues for fiscal year 2026. Animal Care and Control Facility, which is roughly about a $60 million building. Airport Center 3 at $140 million. South County Administrative Complex at $8 million for 2026, and then 810 Datora, which is the movement from Datora over to 45th Street, roughly $22 million. So these projects represent roughly $230 million for FY 2026 that would be potential for bond issues on that. Yes, ma'am.
Todd, on South County Administrative Complex,
Yes.
you said $8 million in 2026, and then?
$220 million in 27. Yeah, so I was just accounting for the 2026 numbers that I was sharing with you, but yes, that would go to roughly $220 million in 2027 on that particular facility. So it's not cheap to build buildings, and it's expensive. Our fund balance, we wanted to share this slide with you on page 56. You can see in the aqua, these are counties that have a AAA bond rating by all three rating agencies. The others have a AAA rating by one or two of the rating agencies. And we just wanted to show fund balance as a percent of fund balance to revenue, just to understand where we were in fund balance, because we think that this is one factor that's very important in maintaining our county's AAA rating. And the next slide, again, on page 57, where you look at our fund balance and historically where those percentages have moved. Today, in 2025, our estimated is to be about 24.6%. And one thing I wanted to share about what's going on in the legislature today, one thing that the Speaker of the House has made a priority of his is moving up their fund balance and their rainy day fund in the legislature. They're at about 10% today. He is allocating $750 million this year in an effort to get that number up to 25% because they're raising that ceiling in the state to get to 25%. Maybe some of that is due to some of the conversations we had about FEMA and expectations and readiness, but we are just right about where the legislature is looking at where they think that they need to be over the next several years, and they're putting the money in that to get to that location. So just wanted to show that maybe we're sort of one of the benchmarks that the legislature is looking at where we should be when it comes to fund balance and that history today. And then for the future, page 59, we share with you the 2025 and 2030 projections as we move forward, what those appropriations potentially look like, and what that looks like at current millage rate moving forward. Page 60 is one where we talk about future funding and our budget issues, and I'm going to ask Sherry to chime in on this because she might be one of the only people in the state of Florida that understands maximum millage rate and what votes mean for majority votes versus 2/3 of maximum millage. So Sherry?
Yeah, I might be the only one that remembers how easy trim was back in 2007 also. But back in 2008, when we made some changes to the trim, the concept of maximum millage rate came up. And for a long time, we didn't even think it was a real issue for us. But you can see that it's a formula based on our prior year rollback rate and the per capita Florida income. So right now, our maximum millage rate for 26 is 4.4521. So since it's our 4.5 is slightly higher than that, it does require us to have a majority vote, a super majority vote, so 2/3 vote on keeping our millage rate at the 4.5.
And the final slide that I wanted to share with you is just a quick recap so that the direction that the Board of County Commissioners gave us on the 20th, you understand exactly what we did with that and how we are handling that. So to provide you with a balanced budget, we included the 4 previously mentioned appropriations, the $70,000, $60,000, $178,000, and $414,000 respectively for district expenses back to school, and then 3% increases to some of our assisted agencies. The PBSO cut to balance, we included $10 million in the proposed budget, and $10 million will be included in the March 2026 mid-year budget to fully fund the sheriff's request. We've moved some of the preliminary allocation of additional property tax revenue and other sources from the July 1st values to our reserves in anticipation of needing to save more in the event that we need to spend more of our own in the future. And then finally, the last bullet points are items that will be funded with ARPA response replacement funds, and that is the septic to sewer of $4 million with our parks, our Emergency Operations Center connection of $7.25 million, PBSO Data Center at $2 million, African American Museum at $1 million, and Mid-County Planning at $1 million. Those items will be brought back to the Board of County Commissioners on July 8th as a separate item, so that will be approved even before the 2026 budget is approved, and those dollars will become available once that item comes back on July 8th and the board affirmatively votes to fund those particular projects. So that will be on July 8th. And with that, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, we're available for any questions that you might have or comments.
Okay. First one with her light on was Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to go back to slide 18. But first, and I think the property appraiser usually answers this for us, but do we know the expected percentage of our homesteaded properties that are going to hit that max cap this cycle?
I don't have that information. Do you have that?
I think she usually answers that for us. It's because last year I think it was like 97% of all homestead properties.
Yeah, we'll have to ask.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Thank you. So on slide 18, the CPI index, that was something that was voted on in the last ballot, right? Can you explain the significance of what was voted on and how that's reflected in this year's budget?
Sure. So,
Go ahead. You got it. No, you got it.
start. Good. I explained this to a lot of voters during
Go ahead, you got it.
Election season who had difficulties. So the way that it works is that you've got your first $25,000 homestead exemption, the next is taxed, then after that you're exempt. And so what the legislature asked voters on the component after that $25,000 to tie CPI index to that. So as CPI index goes up, then that increase of homestead exemption will be a variable rate that will go up and will be applied to each individual property based on that CPI increase. And so you'll see different numbers, depending on valuations of homes, but this kind of lays out roughly what that additional relief will be to our homeowners in Palm Beach County and actually throughout the state of Florida.
So for this cycle, I think you have on here, is this the average savings was about $722?
No,
Or-
that is the savings, right.
Exemption. The
Yeah,
average
that's additional exemption.
The additional exemption would be about $722.
Okay, I see.
And so that savings would be $3.25 at our current millage rate. Yeah.
Oh, that was hopeful. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that number, that CPI is about 722, and then that's reflective based on our ad valorem millage rate to get to about a $3.25 savings.
So no matter the property value, everyone got an additional $722 of exemption.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. On page 21, I know this is a discussion that I think we've had a few times about sales tax, and it takes me a couple of times of this to really digest it, but, and in conversations that I've had with people, so you brought it to our attention that our state sharing the revenue of the 6% sales tax, everyone who shops in this county, you pay 6%, that all goes to Tallahassee. Explain to us with these two lines that we have here, what comes back to Palm Beach County?
Right, it's a formula, and the biggest chunk of it comes from sales tax of the 6%, nothing to do with our surtax. And it's based on our population. It's a little bit more of a complicated, but that's the gist of it. So we were surprised in '24 that our revenues came in less than '23, and it made us look in our office like, why would we get less? You know, we're seeing more in our surtax from year to year. So we went back and looked, and we realized our population in Palm Beach County, although it's growing a little bit less than the state as a whole. So we're now a smaller percentage, very little too. And then we realized that the state 6% sales tax came in just slightly less than the prior year. So it was just a combination of a couple of things to see that drop. And so we went back and looked at our surtax because it's coming in much higher, but our surtax, it's generated in Palm Beach County and it stays in Palm Beach County. And that's the biggest difference between that and the 6%.
And I know that I asked you in my agenda review yesterday, and I don't think you were able to have those numbers because just basing it on the surtax amount, because it's a local surtax, we're only allowed to tax up to $5,000.
Right.
So if someone buys a car, it's only the first $5,000, so it was $50 was what our part of that was. The state sales tax is on the full amount.
Correct.
So were you able, I know it was just yesterday, were you able?
I wasn't
Okay.
able to find exactly how much is generated in Palm Beach County, but we'll look.
But just basing it on the surtax, I believe that if you extrapolated the first $5,000, it was $2.4 billion.
Yeah, we collect a little over $400 million a year for the whole penny, so 6 pennies would be about 2.4. And so when there's discussion about eliminating property taxes and using sales tax, there's been a lot of things in the news. I just wanted to know, what do I need here in Palm Beach County? And it would be 6% before we even talk about cities, the school district, all of our, dependent districts and things like that. So.
Okay, and to be clear though, that at least $2.4 billion that this county sends to Tallahassee, strictly based on sales tax, we get back less than $200 million?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
We are, and we have been, a donor county to the state of Florida for many, many, many decades.
Yeah.
And that is something that we have talked many, many years to our legislators about. They are aware of it. But there are a lot of other larger counties, too, that are donor counties to the state. Orange County, Miami-Dade County. So
Yeah.
a lot of those dollars are moved all around the state.
Well, I like to say I live in a donor city and a donor county and a donor state and a donor country maybe, so, okay. On page 26, I know this is something that came up, I think previously, with Parks and Rec wanting to charge for the county field uses. And I know, I think Jennifer Cirillo sent to us removing any of the nonprofits that are all volunteer and also recreation leagues. Because I have some knowledge about travel teams that make a lot of money doing this, and I have no problem having them pay. But I know that there's a few, Mr. Cirillo's here, if you would like to come forward. I think you gave us the numbers on those that are not just nonprofit, because nonprofits can still charge a lot of money for this, but the ones who are all volunteer. And do you have that number?
I do. Thank you, Commissioner Mayor. So last meeting, we talked about nonprofit youth sports organizations who are all volunteer led, coaches, administrators, do not make any cuts to their players that are coming out for the teams, and everyone plays. So we went back and we crunched the numbers on that. And the $5 per field that was originally included in the supplemental request equals about a $75,000 total for all of those groups across the county. My recommendation would be if it's the board's desire to not charge those all volunteer, all no cuts, everyone plays. We really see them as an extension of our recreation department, and we are not staffing those leagues like a city might staff them. Instead, the volunteers are doing that for us. Non-recreation groups, as you're familiar, do charge quite a bit of money, do often have paid coaches and or administrators, do make cuts, and not everyone plays. They're very competitive. They go by many different names: Travel, Elite, Academy, many different names. Those organizations, we do have about 75 teams. Some are nonprofits, even though they have paid staff. Some are LLCs, some are for-profits. All of those folks, we still have, and you will see in that supplemental request, we still do have a $5 per hour per field charge. So if you have two teams, conservatively 22 kids on the field at the same time, they would all share to pay that total of $5 per hour per field. We did a market analysis, as I shared last time. That is still extremely, extremely low. We are one of the few agencies that does not charge any uses of fields for any non-recreation teams.
Okay, so the dollar amount then, if we do not charge the all volunteer leagues that you were referring to, what would that change?
Very conservatively, we'd change that 351 to 275,000. That would only be charging non-recreation youth, and then we did have a senior fee in there, mostly senior softball, which is a discount. Our adult fee right now is $25 an hour, so we'd be discounting that. We'd charge the senior groups $10 an hour. We really only heard from one senior group that was like, well, we'd each pitch in, and it'd be about $25 a person for the whole league. Senior softball is very, very prevalent on our fields, and again, we are one of the few agencies, definitely in the state, maybe in the country, that does not charge those groups. So that would be a discount off our adult rate, but $10 an hour for the field for everybody playing on the field. So the total, the seniors and the youth non-recreation, that 351, we believe would, again, conservatively, we would make $275,000 a year, possibly more revenue. We'll see how it comes in. We think once we start charging, people will tighten up their schedules a little bit and only permit the fields for what they will actually use. Okay. So we're confident in that number to be 275 in revenue.
Okay, I would like to see that change made. If the rest of the board wants to pipe in, I have no problem letting the all volunteer leagues continue and make the other changes that you recommended. Okay, and then I have two more.
Sure.
Okay, page 33. Could you? This is something more I think I'd like highlighted. I know you explained it with the fund balance from the previous year. And I think there's another page where the fund balance is discussed as well. But just explaining, this is carryover money. A lot of this is for capital projects, but can you give a broader, was there another page on that? For just some fund balance?
Yeah, so specifically on page 33, which is, we didn't, I think, show this total fund balance for you on the 20th, and this sort of included some of the capital and balance brought forward. So of that larger blue 46.7% of fund balance, that's $4.45 billion. About $2.4 billion of that is capital. The balance brought forward is roughly about $466 million of that fund balance total that you have in there. Water utilities accounts for roughly about $400 million of that. Airports is about $260 million of that particular item. We've got housing bond money that is in there. And we have some of the opioid settlement money that's in there too, roughly about $32 million, which is the kind of first allocation that we have in there. And then we have fire rescue that's also included in there of about $219 million. So those are some of the larger pieces of the fund balance that we have brought forward, and then just kind of broke it down in some of our larger, more revenue-based departments that we have.
Okay, and most of that fund balance is restricted?
The fund balance that we have that is specific to capital and funding projects is funding those projects. And then for those individual departments, those individual fund balances that are moved forward are restricted to water utilities, airports, fire rescue, and the like.
Okay. I would like, just for myself, another one of these charts kind of helping break down the previous year's fund balance, just so we can see from one year to the next where all of those monies are. Because, we see a very large number here, $9.5 billion budget, but almost 4.5 of that is carried over from previous year. And it would just be helpful for me to better understand that money, where it came from, why are we bringing all this money over year after year? I'm sure there's good reasons for it, but I think I would like a more detailed explanation. And I like the graphs here, that's helpful.
Okay, good. Yeah, and just to kind of have an idea from FY25 to FY26, the fund balance in FY25 was about $3.8 billion, roughly $3.868 billion, and then to $4.45 billion. So we've seen a growth and increase of that fund balance as we move forward.
Okay, and then on page 50, thank you, Mayor, for clarifying the numbers on the South County complex. Did we know 220 million? I feel a little shocked by that number. Did we know this from before on page 55?
Sorry, let me get there.
It's a floating number, it seems.
That was page 50.
South County.
Oh,
no, I remember it being 220 million.
do you remember 220?
It was like
Well, because
72.
it's a complete
and then
redo. I mean, everyone knows how gross it is, but it's also, how many, 4 commissioners? 3 commissioners are in that?
No, there's 3 of us.
3 of us.
Yeah, 3 of them in that building.
Mayor?
or we're all,
We're just kind of talking.
Well, turn your mics on.
I think it's exaggerated. There are 3 commission offices in there, and it's a whole complex. It's got to be redone. So you can't just look at they're going to do that, our building. There's an entire complex there, and it's incredibly located right next to the train station. So it's valuable land, and I know that we can take a deeper dive into this because there's got to be more that can be done in that area. Land is valuable.
And the
Building
health
is old,
department's a
but-
big part of this as well,
What's
right?
that?
The health
the
department.
health department.
has
There's a number of departments there that can and will be moved and should be moved. But yeah, this is a longer conversation.
I was going to say, let's not get waylaid on this one, especially because that's not for the budget that we're talking about. That's for a future budget. I see.
It's a bond issue for next year, though, in the coming fiscal year, right?
It potentially could be. We just wanted to share with you what some of those larger projects that if we funding going forward, that could be included as part of the bond issue, as we look at 26.
Actually, I'm sorry, there was one more question I wanted for clarification. When you said the state fund balance, they were planning to go from 10 to 25%?
5%, where they're planning on going with their rainy day fund. So
Like
looking at-
in a single year, or that's their
No.
plan to ramp up
So the
to?
plan is to ramp up to that 25%. They're allocating $750 million this year, and then the proposal that they put forward was $750 million a year going forward until they eclipsed that 25%. And I wanted to use that just, as we looked at ours as a benchmark, and the state now is sort of looking at that number as one that they're trying to lift their balance up to as well.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your indulgence.
Oh, you're welcome. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Just a couple things. One is you were talking about the CPI and potentially a slowing down of the increase in this, or the CPI continuing to decrease. I'm just curious where you're getting that information from, and that's not what I've been reading about.
Well, I just wanted to share with you this. If we go to slide 17, I was using a single family home and just showing the current trend that we're on today. So if you go back to 2017 and you see that CPI of 0.7 in terms of, 2017 on that third from the bottom line, then going up to 2.1 in 18, 19, 1.9 in 20, 2.3 in 21, 1.4 in 22, and then that bump to 7 in 23. And then since that 23, I was just showing on a downward trajectory of the CPI since then. I'm not making any type of predictions of what's going to happen in 27 or 28, but I just wanted to show sort of that curve trend of where we're at right now, and saw that bump in 23, and then it's fallen down 6.5, 3.4
Sure.
to 2.9%. That
Yep.
was what I was trying to
Okay,
explain
all
with
right.
that.
That's fine. Because
I'm not trying to play an economist today. I guarantee you that.
yeah, data's not showing that,
Yeah.
that trend that way right now, so we'll see. On page 57, with the decrease in the reserves, is that including the $45 million for presidential security?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. It was net of that. So maybe it should be, because it's a little, and especially if you're going to be going at all talking to the rating agencies, that be really clearly delineated that, I mean, yeah, we pulled that money out of reserves and paid it, but there's a likely expectation that that money is going to be replaced by the federal government.
Correct.
Yes.
So it doesn't look quite as bad. So, and then lastly, on page 28 on your supplemental request not approved, there were four requests from Animal Care and Control. They have been understaffed for forever, as far as I can remember. And what are we doing to try and deal with that? I mean, these are really small dollars.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those positions, if you look at, you got positions paying, like $45,000 a year.
One thing that I'll point out, and I want to say from Animal Care and Control's perspective, they have been one of the divisions over the last several years that have probably seen historically one of the larger increases in terms of new positions in public safety that we've given to them. And I want to thank Animal Care and Control and Public Safety, because when Jan came in, she recognized that there were some serious needs in Animal Care and Control. And what she did was she laid out sort of a multi-year projection for us in administration, so that we could see year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what she was going to be requesting. And, for some of those years, we said, look, put more in there so that we can reflect that as we go forward. And then some of those we've tried to pick up from past years. We've pulled up just a little bit of history on public safety and animal care and control, so you know what we've funded animal care and control from year to year. So in 2021, we funded 2 positions in animal care and control, an assistant director and volunteer coordinator. 23, an animal care veterinarian tech and veterinarian 1. In 24, the Board of County Commissioners provided 4 positions, 2 animal care coordinators, 2 animal control officers. 25 was 1 animal care coordinator, and in 4, 1 animal care coordinator and 3 animal care specialists. So from 21 to 25, the BCC has approved 12 supplemental requests in animal care and control. And probably maybe next to facilities and potentially, I don't want to say parks maybe, they've been sort of in the top in terms of what the Board of County Commissioners has approved as supplemental requests. So that's just a little history for those positions in animal care and control. And I'm certain that if these are not funded this year, those will be some of the continuation that we'll look at in 2027 going forward.
Well, I appreciate that, but you have 2 veterinary assistants, and I know one of the things that we run into is we don't have enough of the ability to, in terms of ability to neuter the animals, and which then they reproduce, and it just the costs. I mean, they're going to get us one way or another, and it's better to try and catch up on the front end than on the back end. And it seems like a reasonable investment to be making on veterinary assistance. I understand what you're saying, but when you start off at the bottom, all you can do is go up. So by adding positions when they were really had been hit hard in the cutbacks, I think it's you know. And yeah, as a percentage, it may appear that way, but they also are one because the fact that they don't deal directly with human beings, but with the animals in our county. That they were the first to get cut and the last to get brought back up. So I understand that, but I think it just. And if you tell me that there's a plan to get us back on track, then I'll accept that.
That has been our intent, is having a plan put in place to do that. That being said, I just want to lay this out in full transparency. We include all of this information for the Board of County Commissioners. One, so you know what our needs are of our departments. Two, so you understand that it was not an easy decision as these requests were reviewed extensively by the management team, but we want you to know exactly what we have requested for funding and supplementals, and just the fact that they were not approved and those requests doesn't minimize what those requests are. I can tell you that many of these on this page, on page 28, are important to our operations in every single department, but in an effort to get to a balanced budget and bring that to you, that's where we ended. That being said, obviously these are decisions of the Board of County Commissioners, and if you have priorities that may be different than items we put forward, we wanted you to have the ability to look at that and all of those items.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, Jen Cirillo, saw her here earlier. Could you come up? So I agree with the comments Commissioner Woodward made regarding the parks and not charging those volunteer programs. That got me thinking, do we charge for tennis court use for people that monetize it, like tennis instructors, golf instructors? There are private uses happening on other things other than ballparks. So do we charge for that?
Yes and no. So yes, we do have a tennis instructor, John Prince Park, actually, in your district. We have an authorized permit for that tennis instructor to be there. He does pay a fee to the county to use that. Part of his contract is to make sure that there are courts available for the public at all times. So he does not have exclusive use, but he does offer tennis lessons, particularly for youth wanting to learn to play tennis or someone picking up the game. We also have pickleball instruction, but it's indoors, so they do pay a fee to teach instruction for pickleball in our recreation centers. It is against our ordinance to conduct a commercial activity in a park without a permit.
But they do it.
There are lots of folks that, and you will see my supplementals are enforcement related that were not approved because it's very, very challenging. Our parks are free, affordable, zero entry fee to access. There's lots of folks that try to monetize our park system against our ordinance. Yes, Commissioner.
I just want to make sure that if we're going to enforce it on the ballparks, we're also going to enforce it across the board.
My staff are constantly enforcing our ordinance to the extent they can. They do not have enforcement powers, but my rangers are educating tennis instructors, pickleball instructors, folks conducting, we do fitness permits, but if you do not provide us insurance and you're having a fitness class outside, charging people to do so, that is against our ordinance. So we are consistently educating, not just on our courts and our fields, but yes, even in our open space, Commissioner.
Okay. Can they rent a court if they wanted to hold a training, or they wanted to do, can they actually, because you said it's against the ordinance, but can they actually rent a court?
We do not have a rental program. All our courts are first come, first serve for public use. We currently don't have a rental program. I will say the tennis instruction piece, that's not really a rental, that's an independent contractor agreement, but that's the mechanism we have for folks to use a court.
But I'm speaking about those people that do it without permission.
Yeah, no.
Would they be able to get a
All our courts are
perm?
first come, first served. The demand exceeds our availability of our courts.
Okay.
They can hold a special event. We have basketball, 3-on-3 middle school tournaments that are with the school district, things like that. So we do some events on our court system, but by and large, they're first come, first serve.
Okay. And my next question is for the administration.
Joel,
So-
Commissioner Flores, would you mind if I interrupted you for a second? Because Jennifer is still here. You said, you alluded to a position not being funded for permit enforcement. Did I get that right?
Oh, well, just general enforcement. So I did have a supplemental request for a couple things. One doesn't have sports courts, but it's Riverbend Park. I asked for a park ranger specifically for that park. We've had arson, we've had other e-bike, dirt bike issues in that park, significant
aware.
issues. That was on a supplemental that was cut. And also our PBSO enforcement unit. Many of you may not be aware, we used to have a PBSO enforcement unit specifically for parks. We had over 50 officers when it was cut. That was during the budget downturn. It was cut in 2010. And we do not have dedicated PBSO parks enforcement for our county park system any longer. We do work very closely with Road Patrol, and they're wonderful, but they have lots of priorities on their plate. So that was also a supplemental request. You'll see we did get a quote from the sheriff's office, so that's a real number that he provided in order to bring back, that would be eight officers total that would patrol our park system and give us that enforcement piece that we don't really have right now other than relying on Road Patrol.
So when you say enforcement, you mean safety enforcement, or do you mean you haven't gotten a permit, so you need to go get a permit? Those are two different things.
It is both. What the commissioner was asking was commercial use, so monetizing our park system, preventing public access because they're running their business in our park system. That's the enforcement I was talking about.
Would that be PBSO, or would that just be another person under Parks and Rec?
It would need to be PBSO because we do not have enforcement powers for our ordinance. So when someone refuses to leave a facility and they're monetizing it for their own personal use, unfortunately, my park rangers will educate them, and if they refuse to comply, the only choice we have is an enforcement choice. Typically, people are like, okay, and they move, and then they come back when the ranger's not there, unfortunately. Or I have had people get belligerent and say, you do not have a gun, you're not a deputy, I'm not listening to you. And so, unfortunately, our staff do encounter folks that when it becomes a safety issue, my instruction to our park rangers is walk away. At that point, you call for help.
And do you have an idea of what we're losing in the way of fees? So it would be offset by an officer?
I really could not, it would be a total guesstimate on my part,
Okay.
honestly, to figure out that piece of it. Now, I will say to the commissioner's question, also, court fees, there are many agencies, municipalities we know of, that do charge pickleball reservation fee, and you pay for the court, invite your friends, and that type of thing. We did not propose that. That is something that Parks and Rec agencies around the country are doing. We looked at what everybody else is doing, which is the field fees. The court fees, it's hit or miss. Some people are doing it, some people are not.
Thank you for letting me interrupt.
No, that's the whole point of this. I would like to put a break on court fees unless they're being monetized. If they're being monetized, I'm okay with giving them a permit of use. They would have to pay, sort of like a, sharing of the cost. So now, if they're being overused and there's not enough for the public to access, then that's something that we would have to balance. But I'm okay with, if you're making $1, then you have to pay a fee to the county. So I'm okay with that aspect of it. But if it's just use of the community and the residents and you're not monetizing it, then I don't want to do a court fee right now. So that's my
I would
thoughts, my
agree,
opinion.
I would agree, Commissioner. I would say we do not have an underutilized pickleball court in our county park system at all.
Oh, I know. I've been to Okehili. That is, and right down the street, Green Acres has courts too, and they're
Yes.
packed.
Yes.
So you can't, and then you have to wait.
What I've heard
been
is
there.
that Okehili's one crowd and Freedom Park's a little more of a friendly recreational crowd, and Okehili can get a little competitive, but they work in conjunction with each other. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it does. I get the evil eye.
But, yeah. All right, thank you.
Hold on a second before you go. Vice Mayor Baxter also had a question for Jennifer. Okay.
More so, I will comment on what Commissioner Flores said, and I do agree. Unless they are monetizing the use of our facilities, I don't really see. And if I was understanding why, I don't see the need to charge for those. I mean, if it's being monetized.
For the sports fields, Commissioner?
Correct, for the sports fields.
Vice Mayor? Yeah, so the sports fields, to Commissioner Woodward's point as well, after last meeting, I did go back and look at the ones that are not monetizing, and that would be about $76,000 off that supplemental revenue if we did not charge them. The non-recreation teams are monetizing youth sports on our county fields to different degrees, granted. I do have personal knowledge of soccer coaches making six figures using county fields for free. They are monetizing our fields, the public's fields, I would argue. So those are the groups that the supplemental I'm recommending that we keep in. I do think they should pay something to the county to use.
How are we
those
calculating
fields.
what we charge them? So if you're
So
saying
I
a
did a
soccer
market
coach is.
analysis. Many cities charge, and I have that, I can share with you. Many cities charge $25 an hour. We tried to keep it as low as possible, so we use Sarasota County as a comparable. They do charge $5 an hour for youth sports to use the fields, plus a late fee. I'm not recommending a light fee because that gets really complicated, an addition type of thing. So really the $5 an hour per field is what I feel is like a minimum comparable with our market analysis. It's not market rate. If we were doing market rate of what it costs us to maintain their field for their use and the light fee, it's about $6 an hour to light up athletic field, give or take, depending on how efficient your lights are. So really, if they're using a lighted athletic field, we're still supplementing their use. And that's how we came up with the fee. It was really just lowball, because $25 an hour would be market rate.
And follow-up, Mayor. Sure. Are you aware of other departments, and maybe this is better suited for staff, what other departments have contracts with the sheriff's office?
I know that libraries has contracts with the sheriff's office and uses deputies from time to time in some of their facilities.
You say time to time and sometimes. So how?
Maybe if I can ask Doug to come up and kind of share what our arrangement is with them. Some that we have more full-time.
And other than
others-
libraries, whom else?
Airports uses PBSO
got
deputies
that.
that are on station there. Oh, and ISME works specifically with PBSO through security.
So if I may, I'm going to step in. The contracts that get put in place for libraries and for other colleagues in the county are handled through FDO, through our electronic services and security division. We do handle two types of contracts. We have contracts for deputies assigned to specific locations. Library is an example. We do it for the tax collector. We do it for the clerk. We have some contracts, as those that I mentioned, that are basically assigned positions. And then we also handle what is called off-permit contracts, meaning to say that if there is a specific need, the user department says, we have an event, we need support from the sheriff, and we will get a deputy assigned for that specific event for a number of hours. So we do both.
So what other departments, I guess I'm saying, would be individual? I believe even has a department.
does, correct.
And are there any others? Because that's just the one I know off my head, top of my head, that
Come
wasn't
to mind,
mentioned.
those are our main. We also handle contract security for the courts, and it's done through a contract. with the sheriff. We handle the canines as well, the dog unit, also another contract. So we have a few separate contract agreements with the sheriff's office.
And roughly how many officers, let's say between and libraries, would you say that we contract?
I don't have that figure top of my mind. Do you have that number for libraries only? I can get back to you if you give me a few minutes.
Well, does Deb know the answer?
Commissioner Flores, thanks for kicking off this conversation.
Good afternoon, Deb Drum, Environmental Resources Management. We have 4 that are under a contract, but sometimes when they're managing their staff, they'll bring in an additional officer depending on vacation schedules and that sort of thing. So they kind of blend that in.
And do we know how many libraries has?
Good afternoon, Doug Crane, Library Director. Currently, we are not have any deputies currently out there. We just finished a contract at the Canyon location due to unruly high school students that were overwhelming the branch in the afternoon. Basically, when we do a contract, we run it for a certain period of time to cover whatever security situation we feel is happening. And once that security situation diminishes, then we phase out the deputy. And typically what it is, we set a certain number of hours that we need a deputy, and county facilities works with the sheriff's office, and there's a certain number of deputies who move through that contract.
So currently none.
There's
with
none
libraries.
operating right now.
Okay, none operating right now. And the reason I will say the reason I was asking is because Jennifer, and thank you, Doug, and thank you, Deb. The reason I was asking, you had mentioned that we used to have 50.
Yes.
That's what you said.
50, just to
Yes.
monitor parks.
Yes.
That is a lot. All right, I'm going to reserve my other comments, so thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores, wait a second, Commissioner Sachs. Well, Commissioner Flores isn't done. Do you have a question for?
Well, I do, but Commissioner Flores is still talking.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Go
Flores.
ahead. But Jennifer, don't go too far.
Don't go anywhere.
So my other comments are to the administration, more questions. We seem to always be hovering around 9 to 10% with vacancies. And
Be a standard, though.
there's been 68 positions that have been vacant for over a year. So that's a little troubling. My question to you is, because these dollars are budgeted, meaning they're sitting there, what occurs when those dollars are not expended? Does a department transfer that into another line item? Or is that when you guys sweep once a year and say, we have these funds available?
Well, they remain funded for those positions, but they do become a balance brought forward that carries from year to year if there's unused dollars related to those particular salaries.
So can I just
Yeah, go
add
ahead.
one more? I'm sorry. So as we prepare the budget, departments will go through and they'll estimate what they think they're going to spend for the current fiscal year. And then we look at the total revenues that we think we're getting in, the expenses, and come up with what do we think we're dropping to the bottom line. And that is how we've built our fund balance, our balance brought forward for the 26 budget, and those come through. And then we're never right 100% with our estimates. And in March, we'll bring you back what actually happens, and that's how we have additional fund balance in March that we bring to the board.
Right. I mean, when we hover around 9-10% vacancy rates, that's a large chunk of money that the county's saving every single year. We have 68 positions that are vacant. Do we ask these departments to explain why these positions have gone vacated for longer than a year? And do they really need it?
I would say that the answer is yes. We do have conversations with these departments about some of these vacancies, and specifically the ones that have been longer to fill. There are challenges in filling a number of different positions, whether it be, and I'll just use a few as an example. Engineers, is one that has been a difficult one for us to fill and maintain in some of those, some of those really sought after positions that we have. Veterinarians has been one that's been extremely difficult to fill in animal care and control. And, we've worked creatively to try to put out advertisements, to try to target different areas from a recruiting perspective to do that. I know that Mr. Khan, when he's come in, he's looked at a number of these different vacancies and has some creative ideas about, how we go about trying to do some of those recruitments. But I'll tell you this, in areas where also you have, cyclical employment too, and by that I mean certain positions are just hard to retain people in them. So they'll come in, they become entry level, somebody may stay there for months or a little bit longer at a time and then have opportunities to move. And so you've got vacancies in some of these positions that just revolve. So you're constantly working to fill a number of those, and animal care control is another example I'll use, is where we see some of that, where entry-level positions that you have, folks gain some skill set, and then they're applying and moving on to other jobs as well. So, those are some of the challenges that we face in that area. And, but I think that a lot of the positions that we have are ones, ISS, a good example. People who have expertise in that, a lot of them are not interested in coming to the office and working 40 hours a week, in the governmental center or some other places. So we've tried to be creative in some of those areas and spaces to work with some of those needs of an employee base to be more attractive. But that also creates challenges in and of itself too, when we look across the board and trying to be equitable with as many employees that we have who also wanted to be maybe treated a little bit differently than some others. So just giving you a few ideas of some and the reasons why we have some of these challenges in some of those places. They're just very hard to recruit and retain. And then I will tell you too, in some of those positions also, salary and benefits is a big issue when you're competing on a position that has a very dominant presence in the private workplace, where salary levels are much higher. So we're trying to work through a number of those issues as fairly and equitable as we can.
I guess, I would like to see that number decrease, that 68. I think that's high for a position to be unfilled for over a year. And then the other is the vacancy rate overall, 9%. I thought that was pretty high. And that has been very consistent for the county for a very long time. So we, I guess, as we move forward, I would like to see us decrease in that percentage number, and how we get creative by doing that, because I think there's a lot of open positions. I would like for government to be more efficient, and if they're not needed, then we should really consider. If these positions have gone on for a while, obviously we're still operating and it's not required. Then we should look at eliminating some positions. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores, I'm going to jump off on that. Sherry, do we have a vacancy history for other counties? Do other counties have a similar vacancy rate is what I'm asking.
Let's see if maybe my HR director might know the answer. I have not. I'm putting him on the spot too. I don't know. I haven't checked with other counties, might be but we could do a little
we were just whispering
research.
about that here in terms
that might be a good answer to have for us, because if other counties are in the same position as we are, then it's more of a broad conversation. If other counties are 1% and we're 9%, then we have something to really have something to do about it. But, or I should say, we have something that we need to do. But if other counties are at the same 9 or 10% vacancy rate, I think it just means that there's an overall people don't want to come and work for government sentiment. So we need to come up with a good answer for that.
It's my understanding that 10% is about the norm, but I will get more details and get back to you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Sachs, you're next. And then
so
Vice
much.
Mayor
I think
Baxter.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
No, I said, and then Vice Mayor Baxter.
Okay. I think what we're looking at, and Todd, this came from your memo to us, your presentation's not a recommendation from staff, but a presentation intended to solicit board direction related to further review of these matters. So I think that's what we're discussing. And a couple of issues that have come up, one with regard to Jennifer Cirillo, who I think does an amazing job with our parks. And I think what we need to do, come on up, Ms. Cirillo. I get nothing but compliments from the public about our parks. And my question is, do the cities and municipalities charge money to use some of their parks, or all of their parks, or none of their parks?
It's a mixed bag. So we have 39 municipalities in Palm Beach County. About 20 of them have some form of parks and recreation in their municipality. Sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's a little bigger. But yes, they charge for programs or admission fees, things of that nature, parking for beach parking. Every municipality I'm aware of does charge for beach parking.
And so what I'd like to look at as we further get in the weeds, but not today, is somehow that the county can do a similar situation that the municipalities do in terms of, because I think we lose money by not having certain requirements in place. For example, we could have lights go on at the park if somebody wants to pay for it, for games, rather than have everybody in the county pay for a certain number of people to monetize our public parks. So that's something that maybe we can review when we take a deeper dive into parks, how to make them more accessible to folks. I know you've done a great job already, but I'd like to, city parks, according to the people in my district, they prefer city parks to county parks in District 5. And that's because I'm sure they get monetized very well by the municipalities. And I want to thank you publicly for all you do for our parks. Second thing, and thank you, Ms. Cirillo.
Thank you.
The second thing is with animal care and control. We lose money by not spending a little bit of money. And I think that we need to take a deeper dive into this, not today, but another day, because the folks at Animal Care and Control, and I know they're in the back of the room, and I appreciate all that you do, do an amazing job taking care of our animals. We are spending an enormous amount of money on a building that we haven't even pursued aggressively. And that came up as to how much money the county is paying on a building. And I think that we need to take a real deep dive and a review as to what we are spending our money on animal care and control. Because our first job is to take care of the county's animals and not necessarily to expand facilities. So that's another where we need to be smart in purchasing and taking care of these various departments that we have rather than looking at various buildings. And the third, of course, is the South County Administrative Building. Definitely we need to take a very strong, strict review as to what we're doing there, how we can best serve the people of the county in that great location. So thank you for this, just sort of an overview. And I think, though, that we are all getting an eye view of what we need to do to make sure that our county government runs like a business for the people who pay. And I think that we can do a lot better. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jennifer, I hate to have you walk all the way back up here, but if you would, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Just have a seat. A few questions, finishing my thoughts from earlier. How much damage, I guess, is caused in our county parks throughout the year? And maintenance
like
costs?
vandalism?
Yeah, by vandalism.
Yeah, we have quite a bit. So we keep some key performance metrics that are based on our own staff statistics. So vandalism might come up and not be necessarily reported to PBSO unless it's vandalism that that would be gang-related. We do have some of that, so that we work with PBSO on. We do
But do we have a dollar amount of how much it costs us to correct that vandalism?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can certainly
If you
go
had to
back through
guess?
our work orders. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars probably every year, and it's hard to
So
say
it's
that
not like
because
$2
it's
grand
my-
a year or 10 grand. You'd say definitely upwards of 100, 200 grand, but
It depends on what it is. I mean, graffiti tagging's easier for us to fix with paint, but we've had some vehicles and, like I said, dirt bikes, things like that on our turf fields. We've had them on our natural grass fields. Those are a lot more expensive to fix those types of things. There was unfortunately, I hate to even say it out loud, but there was a trend on YouTube where they were smashing restroom fixtures and videotaping themselves. So yes.
I guess that leads to where I was going with this. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to suggest going to 50 right away, but do you think even having a few, whether it's 4 or 6 deputies or a contract in place, is that something that you think would help reduce the cost of the vandalism, maybe could offset some of this cost of having officers?
Yes, so that's 8 officers. I believe 6 officers and 2 supervisors. I could be incorrect, but I think that it was 8. It's 8 total, 6 and 2 is the supplemental request, and it's for 2 things. One is responsiveness, but secondly, it's prevention. And really, I think 50, honestly, Vice Mayor, to your point, I think 50 was kind of a little bit overkill. We have 110 facilities and parks. PBSO, certainly 8 people cannot be everywhere all at once, but it would give us that law enforcement presence that I think is sorely needed, because it's not just vandalism, but the other metrics that concern me more, and what we heard in our needs assessment, people want to not only feel safe in our parks, but be safe in our parks. And I have metrics from PBSO Statistics Weekly of, violent crime statistics, unfortunately, drug misuse, behavioral issues, some of the priorities of the county that this is a tool, and why we recommended it, that would help us with those issues, not just reactive, but preventative.
And so I think we need to look at to protect the taxpayers' investments, right, of the money spent on our parks, to have some sort of presence. Again, I agree with you, 50's excessive, and you were requesting 6 and it got
8.
8,
Yeah,
excuse me.
8 total. It's small print, but it's 1.8 million, 1.885.
$1.885 million. That was a supplemental request that they put in. The detail of that is located in your larger packet, if you have that.
I do,
It's on
and I
page
think
56.
that gives us a rough number.
And if you add Riverbend, it's roughly $2 million.
Correct, yes.
And again, I think, in this instance, I think it could pay for itself with not having to replace, well, not the total amount annually, but again, just having that presence, to your point. I don't know if there's a compromise here, Administrator, or something that we could explore, maybe not the total of 8, but maybe starting with 4 or 6 or something, and
Madam
maybe
Mayor,
2
if I could
supervisors.
respond to that. Vice Mayor, part of what we'd like to hear from you today are any other items that were not included as part of this budget that we brought forward to you. We expect that when we come back in July, we should probably see potentially maybe another $3 to $4 million from a valuation perspective that we'll be getting from the property appraiser. That's roughly about what we expect when we get to the July 1. So if this feedback is important for us, because when we come back in July, we'd like to include whatever is discussed here today to bring you a proposal that we capture any other additional issues. So obviously, we will look at animal care and control per Commissioner Weiss. We will look at the PBSO item and the Riverbend item as well, just to kind of look at, those are items that you've brought forward as things that I think are important to you. So we appreciate that feedback, and we will go back and look at that, and then look at that in relation to some of the potential valuations that we might be, getting come July 1.
Thank you, Todd. And just to clarify, the 8 positions included the 2 supervisors?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Yes.
just making sure. Right, and thank you, Todd.
Yes, ma'am.
I would love to see that come back to us to help with our parks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah.
Just to clarify on that, very quickly, on page 56, we had 1 PBSO sergeant and 8 contractual PBSO deputies that were part of that request. So I just wanted to clarify that on the record. But we'll look at that request, and then, sorry, this is in the supplemental request that we're looking at in your larger packet that you have there. So page 56, that shows you the request that was provided, and specifically 1 PBSO sergeant contract and 8 deputy contract. Okay, so we'll take a look at that, and maybe if there's a way that we can bring a plan back to you going forward, we'll provide that to you.
And page 55 is Riverbend, because I personally, with all of the emails that I've gotten on Riverbend, there's been some significant issues in Riverbend, so I would definitely throw that in there too, please. Jupiter.
Okay.
Commissioner Weiss, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think this brings the need potentially in the future to have a deeper discussion about security in our parks and I mean, how, number one, we want not only we want people to be safe, we want them to feel safe, but on the other hand, if there are people that are causing these expenses, I mean, we need to figure out too how to help them maybe understand what they're costing, and they can put some skin in this game too. So I don't know where that goes, but I think it's a deeper discussion, and it's probably a greater societal thing we have to talk about. But I think, you know, at some point it would make sense, because we do spend an awful lot of money on security. Not that I have anything against spending money on security, but we have a lot of money just spent trying to secure ourselves because of the society we live in. What does it cost? I mean, I one time, you know, was thinking about, you know, you think about code enforcement and all the money that we spend, and that's just because people are doing the wrong thing. And how much money we would save in general if people just did the right thing. Lower the cost. I mean, people talk about government costing so much, but if people just do the right thing, it would be much more efficient.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things that I see in the supplemental request is the funding for the La Quinta. And I know previously we had a discussion with regard to the amount of funding that was being allocated for workforce and affordable housing. I know we had the low-income pool or LIP funding. In this budget, this updated, have we reduced what we had allocated for low-income or affordable housing, workforce housing, from what we had allocated last year?
So on page 26, what we're showing is a reduction of $7.5 million, but what we do have in the budget is $7.5 million. So that was we just did a cut of half of that on the housing initiative, and I believe that's maybe you're referring to, Commissioner. But we do have included in there $7.5 million in this budget of ad valorem towards the housing initiative. Now, that being said, we also have other funds that are inclusive for housing that are bond dollars and those kinds of things that exist as well. And then we have funding also from some of the ARPA allocations that were allocated for housing initiatives as well. And so I think when we come and we talk about all those different funding sources that we have on housing, this is one component of that.
Thank you for that. And that $7.5 million will be for the entire year, right? And I'm just balancing that against, I believe there was one project that we allocated, I think we allocated like $4 million to one project over since the time I've been here. So just wondering and wanted to see how we were.
If you would like, what we can do is we can bring back to you and just show you in July and just do a breakdown of all the housing funds that we've used so that you can see how we've appropriated from ad valorem, housing bonds, other funding sources, and that way you'd have a broader base to be able to have that conversation. I don't know if we've got that total number handy today. Does John? Oh, okay. I think Jonathan and Tammy are. Okay.
Good afternoon. Tammy Fields, Assistant County Administrator, and Jonathan Brown from Housing and Economic Development. The two cuts in the budget were related to the HIP funds, the Housing Initiative Partnership, which we use when, like the housing bond, they don't meet the housing bond requirements, and so we can use the HIP funds as an alternative. The other area where there was a cut is we cut it in half the amount that was being allocated for demucking. That had been $3 million, and that's now at $1.5 million. Last year, we did not use the demucking dollars that were allocated. We didn't have a request for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll take a break in the action. I think we have some cards.
Yes, we have Janine Millam and Robert Guzzotti.
Thank you all. I'm Janine Milam. I'm a resident of West Palm Beach. I want to let you know that I am I manage fraud analytics for a large financial institution, and I'm responsible for protecting over $5 billion. So as I've done before, I did an analysis year over year on the Supervisor of Elections budget. I emailed you all on Friday what I'm going to be speaking about now, so if you want to pick up on some of that, it's in your inbox. There are a few things I'd like to point out in it. For instance, if you compare the proposed budget to the 2020 budget, the SOE budget has doubled, exactly doubled in 6 years. Just pointed that out. Line item GB1, contractual services. This is kind of a black box. I know I've been told by a number of people that if the money isn't all spent, then it's returned to the county. But I've not shown any example where that's happened. And in fact, last year, they went well over $1 million over what was approved in the budget. We have a GJ8, data processing. There's an increase of $1.2 million, so we're paying $3.5 million for software licenses and updates. That seems pretty exorbitant, and I would kind of suggest somebody take a look at the contracts we have with these companies. It seems, I'm a software engineer by trade, so that seems a little outrageous. GH1 is printing and graphics. The budget is nearly $5 million for 2026. I can't imagine what they're doing with printing and graphics for over $5 million. I have a creative imagination, but I can't even come up with enough for that. GA2, which is wages and salary just for SOE staff. They're asking for an increase over last year for $1.2 million. There's only 86 SOE staff. So if we were to consider that, that would be across the board, it'd be over $15,000 a year raise for each of the 86 staff, and I'm sure that won't be distributed evenly. And considering that that I know some people wanted to get increases for your commissioner aides, that's kind of disappointing that the SOE is going to get such a large increases for their staff. Election workers, first of all, this budget is going to cover from October 1st to September 30th, and so this 2026 budget does not include a general election. It includes a municipal and a primary. And they have election workers. They want a $320,000 increase in their budget for election workers for a non-general election year. And then I want to point out that the postage is increasing for over $204,000 over last year in the budget. Again, this is a non-general election year. And there's more that's in there. I've attached this to your email. And I also want to thank Commissioner Weiss for coming by our community a couple weeks ago and helping us with a traffic issue. Thanks.
Sir?
Mr. Guzzardi?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have no more lights on, and I would just like to say that you all did a great job, and I think you've gotten some great feedback from the board. And when we look at increasing personnel for either animal care and control or for Parks and Rec, I think this consensus from the board seems to be that this is actually a way for us to save dollars. If we are able to, as Commissioner Weiss said, if we can take care of it on the front end, we don't have to take care of it on the back end. If we can have patrols in our parks, we don't have to pay to repair damage to our parks. So from both of those agencies, from both of those departments, it would be good to see, how much is it charging us? How much is it costing us on the back end for each one of those things? And it might be a better way to justify getting the additional staffing that we need. With that, I think you all have done a great job. Todd.
If I can just recap and share a few things in a memo that we'll bring back to you. So we will take a look at public safety and some of the animal care items that were brought up today. We will look at the PBSO Parks Task Force. We will look at the park ranger on Riverbend Park, and then we'll also look at some of the housing, because I think it'd be good just to share with you where we've spent some of the housing dollars so that you kind of have a good allocation of what we put into housing and where those funds specifically have come from throughout the complement of the budget. And then we will go back and we'll look at the fee items as well to address the fees that are in our parks and how we're allocating those. And then from the direction of the board on the nonprofits to make some of those adjustments in what comes back as part of the proposal in July. Am I missing anything from those?
Commissioner Sachs?
Thank you. That was very, very inclusive. I'd like to add one thing, and that is how we can make, and I think this has been brought up by many on the board, how we can make government run more efficiently through technology. Okay. Some of the positions that are outstanding, I think we discussed, could be substituted through technology. And I would suggest maybe if we have anybody from any department who has any suggestions on how to streamline their department, we are always eager. They know their departments better than we do. If anybody has any ideas on how to streamline the efficiency of their department, to let you know. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bondler.
Thank you.
The final thing, Mayor, I would just point out, so we did, as a directive from the BCC, and I think we're good on the supplementals and everything that we presented to you so far, but I did want to share on your desks in front of you, we've provided a PowerPoint for you on a directive. We can put it up on the screen if that's okay, on just some of the fuel tax impact on PomTrans service. We put this together as a request, and if you don't mind, just a few minutes that we can go through this and present it to you. And it's really an exercise to look at what a service cut would be to PomTran based on an elimination of gas tax that currently goes in PomTran today. I know that Ivan is with us and Fredlin are here, and just wanted to provide a quick overview with the exercise. And you can digest this a little bit, and then we can come back at a later date if you like and discuss it further. But yeah. So I'm going to go through this really quickly. Ivan and Fredlin and I have discussed it a number of times, but what we've done on the two scenarios that we're providing to you are a look at PomTran service both as fixed route and connection. And taking a look at $33.6 million that we fund today in sales tax, and if that were removed from the PomTran budget, what would the potential of that impact be? So a scenario one that we looked at, and we didn't look at a best case or worst case, there are 100 different scenarios that we could have provided within this. But a scenario one for fixed route service elimination was taking the 3/4 mile zone around our paratransit and just focusing on that as our service area and eliminating the rest, which would be about an $18.2 million reduction to bring that service area down to that 3/4 mile zone. And that's consistent with both the first and the second scenario. But for this scenario, we provided you what fixed route service eliminations would mean, and that would be looking at our lowest productive routes that we have, 9 of those in terms of productivity, elimination of Saturday service, and elimination of Sunday service. And on the next slide, we provided for you a map that shows what that would look at. So in the red, that would be an elimination of all service. In the blue, an elimination of Saturday service. And in the green, an elimination of Sunday service. And we've mapped that out throughout county commissioners' districts. The next page just shows an impact of what that scenario is. So the result of a reduction on the fixed route side for reducing or cutting these routes would be about $15.5 million in annual cost reduction and 91,173 hours of service annually. That equates to about 77 positions in PalmTran that would be eliminated if that service correspondingly would be eliminated, and then shared with you the weekday impact, Saturday and Sunday impact based on jobs both existing and potential within a 1/4 mile of bus stops of those routes, and then broke that down by poverty level, seniors, and disabled populations. One note that I'd also share in the red box at the top where we say service changes exceed the Title VI threshold of 5% for disparate impact on minority populations. That is an exercise that we have to do on any type of reduction in PalmTran. And if there is above a threshold of 5%, that we would have to mitigate those kinds of things somehow. But that exists for almost any scenario of this level, if that is something that would happen in the future. The next scenario on page 5 that we would share with you, it contemplates the same paratransit service reduction of $18.2 million. And then instead of doing route eliminations, we would do service reductions. So frequency, and as we've moved towards more frequency models of going to from a 30 to a 20-minute or a 60 to a 30-minute, we've shared 9 routes and what those impacts of a current frequency model to a reduced frequency, and then what those costs would equate to. Again, the next map shows you what those impacts would be throughout the county, with the red being a reduced frequency throughout Palm Beach County service area on fixed route. And then finally, the last slide shows the result of those reductions. This one's a little more impactful just because on a frequent route, you've got more buses, more hours being served, more operators. So that would be a potential of 114 eliminated PalmTran positions, 138,000 annual service hours, and then the corresponding reduction to that 1/4 mile from that bus stop. And then finally, the last map just shows you the impact of the paratransit service reduction. If we were to reduce an $18.2 million from that budget, reduce that 3/4 mile service area, and you see what that looks like and where that service is today. So we were asked to present to you what some of those impacts might be on the elimination of that. This isn't a proposal to do that, and we don't have funding necessarily that we can offer to you if that's something that you want to replace with something else at the moment. But we wanted to make sure that we made good on that request of the board, and that is what that impact would be for PalmTran on that reduction of service.
Thank you. I have a couple lights on. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, based on the information that you have given us, I can't support this at this time. I think it impacts people's jobs. I think it impacts the poorest of the poorest people out there, our seniors, disabled. I think if there is any discussion of trimming PalmTran, it has to be part of the transportation master plan. I think it can't be just cutting here to I mean, it has to be a full study, a full strategy. I mean, it has to be a way that if you're telling me we're going to prevent people from getting to work, you got to give me an alternative. So it can't just be cutting. So at this point in time, I think this is a great study. I think it illustrates the impact. But I mean, we can't cut Saturday service. People still work on Saturdays. We depend on people to serve our food, to run stores, and to be where we want to be on the weekends. So those aren't automated. AI can't do that for us. We actually need people in all of these service industries. So I appreciate the data. I don't think it's something that we should be looking at right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. And I agree, this should be part of the transportation master plan moving forward. But one of my questions on this, on your scenario one slide, where we have annual costs, annual hours, productivity, but I'm not seeing ridership. How do we know which of these routes, how many people are using these routes? I mean, these are good metrics, but and then you have later we have population information, but how many people are riding these buses?
So if you look on slide 2, for example, and when you look at productivity, that represents the number of passengers per revenue hour that we have on those particular routes, and that will give you sort of a glimpse into ridership that you've got along those routes. Is that correct, Ivan? Yeah, Lynn?
So we would, go ahead.
That is so correct. So when we looked at these routes, we look at the one that are least productive with the least number of boardings of passenger per bus per hour to identify those ridership or the ones that we would be the last resort if we have to cut services for any reason. I would have to say that while they are ranging between 8.42 and 13.7 passengers per hour, when you look at secondary routes, which these are secondary routes, that is actually about an average in the transit industry. So you have your urbanized corridor, you have the higher ridership, and then you have those secondary routes that go to areas where people are not necessarily traveling to. They're very important, but they have lesser ridership because they're secondary routes.
My other question is on the frequency of the routes, because I know that there were a number of them, especially in South County, that were once an hour, and that's not really conducive to good, public transportation. If you miss your bus, you're probably having to call an Uber. So I think it would be helpful to know what the current frequency are. All of these once an hour pickup routes, because that could be part of why there's low ridership.
Yes, many of them are the ones that have 1 hour frequency, and that's hence the reason why they have that low frequency. The ridership is lower, and that is because they probably are not necessarily going into a large urbanized area, and that's why you have the 1 hour frequency in many of those.
Well, I would agree. I don't want to see any changes at this point. I mean, we're looking to hire a consultant that would help us with this. And I would hope that part of what they're going to bring back to us is maybe even if some of our routes might need to be adjusted, as they look at where high demand is, and then helping us with frequency, because some of our routes, again, I tried to use it myself down there, and having to do a couple of different routes. I mean, to get somewhere that I could drive in about 15, 20 minutes, using the bus service would have taken me over an hour, just because the frequency and the different connections I would have to make. So I don't think we're judging this as well as we could. So I think we need more information on this, and hopefully the consultant that works on this will help us with some of that. But I thank you for this. Now is not the time, I don't think.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, staff, for putting this together. I am going to disagree with Commissioner Flores. I don't think that providing people a way to work on weekends to the tune of $33 million, I mean, at that rate, I feel like we could just buy them a car. That's a lot of money. I would also say that I don't know that this is a complete answer, so I do support having it on the master transportation plan and taking a deeper look at this. But I will also add, I want to, and I don't want to be unclear at all, I want to find a way via app, via technology, via however we do that, a card, we need to find a way to track people, not ridership. I want to know how many people in Palm Beach County are using our bus. And I'm tasking you, staff, to figure out a way to figure that out. We need to know how many people. And for those that are unaware of how ridership is calculated, it is if you have to take 3 buses to get to where you're going and 3 buses back, that is 6 riderships. That does not tell us how many people. It tells us ridership. And we need to know how many people. Also, how do we know what 5% threshold if we're meeting if we can't track the people? We need to know people. So, is there any further?
No, and I think one thing I can tell you is that as we continue to get more technologically advanced with our tracking of our fare cards and with our mobile apps, that's giving us a better glimpse, and we'll be able to extrapolate that data a little bit better for you.
And I think whoever's doing our transportation master plan could use that data.
Yep.
It could be very valuable.
Yep.
I'd also like to know too, if possible, if we ask questions or have somebody, what that looks like if it's an app. Do you own a vehicle? I'd like to know how many vehicles we're actually helping take off the road versus it's a great story.
Okay.
How many people using PalmTran have a vehicle? That'd be great information to have.
Okay.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good questions. Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you. I think the way this was presented, staff, is disingenuous because we can't look at it whether we should throw more money at a service without knowing what the service really provides. So I think what we're asking here, first of all, it's transportation. All right, so let's put it under the transportation matrix. And I see Palm Trams all the time. Not in my district hardly, because I don't have hardly any buses in District 5. But I'm not complaining about that. What I'm complaining about, let's get the information correct. I think that's what we're all asking. It's nothing new from me. Let's see, are we transporting people from disabled and the seniors and those without cars from point A to point B for jobs or for groceries? I don't see anybody in the half the time in the buses. So we need to make sure that we have a clear view of what this bus service does. Then we can talk about whether we expand it or contract it or change it. The one thing you did that was brilliant was taking PalmTran and putting it into private cars. What do you call that? It's like an Uber. It's
Our U-Serve.
right. It's excellent.
Yeah,
And that it does take disabled adults from their point of residence to their jobs. One person. Makes sense. And rather than a whole bus, which was before. So let's change the whole matrix of this. And instead of looking at what happens if we get rid of that fuel tax, let's look at it as a type of transportation, and let's analyze it in a more efficient way. Good. Thank you for the work.
Commissioner Weiss. And then Commissioner Powell.
Thank you. So thanks for doing this analysis. I think the one thing that caught my eye was bus length utilization, and just in looking at it, and I would like at some point to get more information to understand it. So if we can have you guys come back, I mean, I'm looking at, I mean, there's very differing degrees of use in different parts of the county, and I mean, it's at magnitudes of multiples, so.
We agree.
Yes, sir.
And that's something that staff has been working diligently on the last couple of months. I mean, as you can see, we have some high utilizations in some areas, a little bit lower in others, but there are some parameters that we are going to be looking at on some of those services today just to kind of better manage the number of trips that we've got. I mean, it's obviously popular in some locations, but we've got to be very mindful of the bottom line cost on those, so
Yeah.
understood.
I mean, some areas you're getting 320 trips a day.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, I think, to really dig into that and understand what people are doing, how they're using it.
Correct.
I think would be valuable.
If
As it relates to transportation for the people most at need in our county, you know, I couldn't agree more strongly with Commissioner Flores. You know, and I appreciate Vice Mayor Baxter. I appreciate your comment, but a lot of the folks who use this service can't drive for a variety of different reasons. And so even if you offered them a car, it would do them no good. So I think it's, you know.
Scenario one, we were talking about fixed route, not paratransit.
I'm talking about fixed route. There's a lot of people who are on fixed route who can't drive. So, but I understand your point, and I appreciate wanting to dig in and try and find out if there's a savings that can be had. I'm all for that. But I also, I think, you know, they're human beings engaged, you know, involved in this, and this impacts their lives, and they may not have other alternatives. So I just want to be mindful of that.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One of the things that I was looking at in terms of the reduction in the gas tax, and I thought about this when Vice Mayor Baxter asked a question related to losing money and the $33 million. How do we compare, and I know we looked at the number of fixed routes and the usage of those different routes. How do we compare to surrounding counties or counties of similar size in terms of the amount of usage that they're getting? It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, with regard to public transit or public transportation like bus systems, for the most part, all of them are losing money. Am I wrong?
If I may, Commissioner, that's a good question. I used to be the Director of Operations at HART, which is the Hillsborough Regional Transit Authority. I also work for Star Metro in Tallahassee, which is a small transit system, but I would say we are about the fourth when it comes to our fifth in size in ridership. We look at the number of buses that we operate in service, as well as ridership. But I wanted just to give you a perspective. We have about the same budget as the HART system, and our ridership is higher than theirs. And they are in a more concentrated area. We're larger, obviously, coverage area. But I wanted just to give you some perspective so you can see. So when I hear someone making the comment, the buses are empty, but I wanted to give you some perspective. Obviously, COVID threw the whole entire transit system off the grid when it came to ridership. So in 2021, our ridership was 5.9 million trips. 2022, we went to 6.3 million trips. 2023, 7.4 million trips. We closed 2024 with 8.6 million trips, and we're trending to 9 million trips. So while you're seeing perhaps buses a certain part of the day that are not operating with full capacity, is trending that I'm seeing, and us being the first ones in the entire state that was able to recoup from COVID. We're seeing some amazing strides and we're constantly realigning services to gain more efficiency. The bus link program, we started it in September last year. We have seen about 77,000 trips since we started. So that's a good indicator that services are being utilized, paratransit services. Obviously, we came here and did a presentation as to how we can make that system more efficient. I would say that the master transportation plan is going to be the foundation for us to build a system that we need in this county, that the citizens deserve, that you will be very proud of. It's going to take some time, and some of the comments that I heard from the different commissioners are truly valid. I think that plan is going to help us analyze the different plans that are out there, transportation origins and destination, and what the different municipalities would like to do as far as building a system that is going to meet the transportation needs of the county. But I would say, to your question, Commissioner, was that I think when it comes to our size, the budget size that we have, the number of buses that we have in service, we're parallel to systems that are peer to us and probably exceed the ridership levels. So our buses are being utilized. We're tweaking the system constantly. In September, we're making some more strides. Just in May, we were able to take the Route 43 that takes you to Wellington, up Okeechobee, making it 15-minute frequency, working with the FTOT to look and identify additional funding to help us build the system and basically take off a lot of that responsibility from, gas taxes and looking for more funding from FDOT and any other options out there. So I'm sorry I did spoke to the whole choir here. So I hope I answered your question, Commissioner.
Well, you're on the right track, but I just want to confirm, and when I studied for my master's, we're talking about 20 years ago, and I know people looking like, 20 years ago, you look like you're in your 20s, but I'm not. So nobody was thinking that? Okay, so with regard to that, we studied federal funding that was going to a lot of our public transit systems. I remember studying the transit system in Atlanta, in Detroit, in Washington, D.C., and all of those transit systems at the time, and this is a long time ago, so things could have changed, were losing money, and it was indicated that public transit, just based on what it does, would always be losing funding. So my question with regard to that is trying to make the system more efficient, but is it accurate that we, like other systems or compared to other systems, and maybe you don't know compared to other counties, how much we're losing compared to Martin County or Orange County or larger counties, Seminole, but would it be accurate to indicate that that's likely the case? We can probably tighten up, but Palm Trans probably not going to be a profitable venture.
I think that's the key word, Commissioner. We're not in the business of making money. So I wouldn't say that we're necessarily losing money. It is a public service to our community and not one that we should expect to be turning a profit from.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Before I ask Vice Mayor Baxter to do her comments, question for you. I know that there was, first off, thank you for doing this. This was a board directive as of May to bring this back, so we appreciate you doing that. But how many Paradise Pass holders are there?
I don't have that information offhand. I can get that information to you. It's hard to say distinct users because we're really going by email addresses. Anybody can use, sign up for the Paradise Pass if you have distinct email address, but we can try to get you as accurate of an information as possible.
Well, I mean, if I'm if I'm signing up for the Paradise Pass, I'm going to use my email address. If Vice Mayor Baxter is going to, so the email addresses would be a good basis for knowing how many folks have the Paradise Pass.
It
And
would,
we've
it would
invested-
get us close, yes. But we do see duplicates. We do see a lot of duplicates in our system. And sometimes too, when we're running promotions, we'll see duplicates, but we can definitely give you a good ballpark, absolutely.
Well, we spent a considerable amount of money trying to get people to use the Paradise Pass because it's easier for, getting on and getting off, but also as a way of tracking. Because if we don't have the right numbers, if we don't have the right data, there's really not much we can do. So with that, I would say give us an accurate idea of how many Paradise Pass holders there are the next time you're able to do that. And I appreciate that. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And when we are tracking these, there's some information Commissioner Powell had brought up that I would like to have. If you could pull the large metropolitan area data, Atlanta, Chicago, DC, all those, and apples to apples, please, looking at, they have massive transit, but buses and potentially paratransit type services, how many riderships versus what they're spending on it and compared to us. We have 2,600 square miles to cover here in Palm Beach County. Let's just say
It's a lot of space, a lot of coverage.
I believe these, let's say, mass transit facilities are more appropriate in a very highly dense areas. And I've even said that for Palm Beach County. We have a lot of density the more east you go. So I would like to see comparably where we stand with dollars per ridership, because we can't even, if they have people, the amount of people, I'd love to see that too. But you've said the standard nationwide has been to track ridership. So if that's the only data they have available, I'd like to see how much they spend for the ridership they get.
Okay.
So thank you.
Commissioner Sachs.
We need data. And I'd like to have the data sent to us before we have another workshop, or certainly before we put tax dollars to this. So give us the data. I want to know about the Paradise Passes. I want to know. Look, this, as somebody said so beautifully, this is a service we do to the people of the county. And I see only one route from the west to the east. We need to connect everybody here. So let's do it in an efficient way, but we need the data. All right? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. I think there's some data that we'll be able to get back to you rather quickly, but I do agree, a majority of you I felt said that when you look at the Transportation Master Plan, that some of these components of this might be best studied as part of that bigger, broader study. So we'll get you some of the data that we can easily get to some of these quick responses, but I think we would agree that maybe on the Transportation Master Plan that this will be a key component of when we sit down with a consultant of kind of talking through PalmTran and its future in Palm Beach County. So I think we've got the information and the direction that we need from you on that.
So
Thank
Todd,
you.
just to go over the dates again, we're expecting the property appraiser to give us her final estimate July 1st.
Correct.
And then July 8th, as part of our monthly meeting, we are going to set the millage, not to exceed millage rate will be July 8th.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Tax collector budget due date, August 1st.
Right.
And then we have our two public hearings, one September 9th and the next one is September 16th. And both of those budget hearings will be at 5:05 in
Correct.
the evening.
And just so you know, at that July 8th meeting, we will bring back to you additional information related to the direction that you gave us today to put that together in that budget so that that should capture all of the priorities and all of the direction that we've received to the BCC. And that way, going into the September hearings, you'll have a balanced budget to bring forward and ready for those public hearings.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.